Need you anymore. I'll be divorcing you at the first chance I get, Ethan said, his words slicing through me like a knife. I felt like I was in a horror movie. The man I had married was now a stranger, cold and unrecognizable. I shook with anxiety, overwhelmed by their cruelty, my emotions still raw and my hormones in turmoil after the birth. Murray's voice cut through my sobs. The housekeeper has packed your clothes so you won't taint this house with your presence any longer. My sweet grandson will be raised with the finest care and soon forget about his cheap mother. That's impossible. I will never leave my son behind. If you want me out of your lives, I will go. But I won't abandon my child. I cried out, desperation lacing my words. By all means, Cesal, leave. Who said we want you to stay? We're telling you to go. You have no choice, Marie retorted, her words dripping with disdain. My heart was shattered from Ethan's betrayal. Marie's animosity had always been clear, but I had dismissed it as jealousy. Her sudden interest in me after I got pregnant had seemed suspicious, but I had never imagined it would come to this. I couldn't fathom why Ethan, the man who once loved me, was acting this way. My mind struggled to accept that he didn't love me anymore. Tears streamed down my face as I looked at Ethan. How can you be so cold to me, Ethan? Don't you feel anything kicking the mother of your child out of your house? My child won't need a mother. Like Mom said, we have plenty of staff around the house, he replied, his words void of any warmth or humanity. Who will help my son grow up to be like me, Ethan? You want to take him away from his own mother? Do you really think he'll have a great life without me? Our son needs his mom, I pleaded, my voice trembling with desperation. Ethan laughed, a cold, heartless sound that shattered my already breaking heart. I stood there, frozen, unable to believe what was happening. The man I had loved was disappearing, replaced by a monster who cared nothing for me or our child. When Ethan finally stopped laughing, he sneered, "What makes you think my son needs you? He's just a newborn. He doesn't even know who you are. We can hire plenty of wet nurses and nannies to ensure he grows up well." My son is right, Marie added with a smirk. My grandson will have everything he needs. You're the last person fit to raise him. You're a low-class woman who can't even dress herself properly. If I left my grandson in your care, he'd turn out to be a loser. Oh, how embarrassing you've been all these years. I'd rather die than see my son suffer the humiliation I endured because of you. Ethan's words dripped with disdain as if he regretted every moment he had spent with me. His eyes were filled with contempt, and his voice carried the weight of years of annoyance and regret. Shaking, I could hardly find the words to respond. Tears streamed down my face as I choked out, "Did I humiliate and embarrass you? How?" "Do you really want to know how you embarrassed and humiliated me?" Ethan retorted, his voice filled with venom. "Just look at you, Cesal. You come from a low-class family and used to work a 9-to-5 job like some broke woman." I needed to hear those words to finally see Ethan for who he truly was. As painful as it was, his cruel honesty exposed the depth of his contempt. "You were never suited for an upper-class family like ours. Mom tried so hard to teach you her ways, but you didn't even want to learn anything," Ethan scoffed. "Wait, so you wanted me to become a rich snob? If I was such an embarrassment, why did you even fall in love with me?" "Who said I fell in love with you, Cesal?" Ethan sneered. "You were beautiful, so I thought maybe I could groom you into a nice trophy wife. But your cheap habits never went away." "In that case, why didn't you just leave?" I asked, hurt and bewildered. "I would have dumped you after having some fun, but then Grandpa liked you. He wanted us to get married and have kids. If I'd walked away, Grandpa would have been furious, and I'd have lost his support. That's why I married you. Now that you've given me the grandson I wanted, I have no use for you anymore." So that was it. Ethan had married me because Ace wanted me as his granddaughter-in-law. Ethan feared that if he left me without reason, Ace would cut off his allowance and inheritance. To stay in Ace's good graces, he married me. Ethan's insistence on having a child suddenly made sense. He wanted an heir to secure Ace's fortune. I had naively complied, and now I was suffering the consequences. This was all part of Ethan and Marie's twisted plans. Ethan had never loved me. He had only wanted to use me for his benefit. The man I married wasn't my soulmate. He was a manipulator. Disgusted, I said, "So that's what this was all about. You just wanted your grandfather's fortune and used me to get on Ace's good side. You destroyed my life just for that." "Who cares about your life, Cesal?" Ethan replied coldly. "As far as we're concerned, you have no relationship with us anymore." I'm still the mother of your grandson and married to your son, Marie. You can't end relationships in a day. We're already working on that, Cesal. You don't have to worry about it, Marie said, her voice dripping with contempt. Our best lawyers are handling your divorce and the termination of your rights to my grandson. I will never let that happen, Marie. I don't care if Ethan divorces me. My love for him is already gone. I won't stay with someone who doesn't love me. But if you think I'll give up my child, you're both dead wrong. What can you do, Cesal? Marie sneered. We'll get the best lawyers and trap you neatly. Don't worry, we'll even offer you some good money to disappear. We'll compensate you with what we think is reasonable. Cooperate, or we'll make your life a living disaster. Their threats ignited a burning rage inside me, replacing my heartbreak with fury. I looked at them, their faces smug and confident. Marie still held my newborn son, and I knew asking for him back wouldn't work. She had more people on her side, and I was too weak to fight. I didn't want to risk my son's safety by trying to snatch him away. Instead, I took a deep breath and spoke calmly. You want me out of the house? Fine, I'll leave. I'll go right now. But I will not let you take my son from me. We'll see what you can do, Cesal, Ethan said with a smirk. Once people or lawyers know who they're dealing with, no one will be on your side. I don't need lawyers for what I have planned, Marie. I promise you right now that you and Ethan will pay for what you've done to me today. This is not the end. Oh, please, Marie scoffed. Save your ridiculous threats for someone else, Cesal. You can't touch us. We will crush you anytime. We also There's no use going to Grandpa about this. Blood is thicker than water, and he will side with his family over anyone else. He always has. I didn't bother to grace them with a reply. They simply didn't deserve one from me. I refused to stand there and waste my time while Marie and Ethan made fun of me and threatened me. It wasn't my style to threaten or yell at people. Mentally and physically exhausted and worried about my child, I needed to conserve my energy to deal with them later. So, I quietly collected my bags and left the house. Marie and Ethan actually followed me, ensuring I had truly left. They didn't need to worry. I had no interest in staying around for their insults. My skin crawled with their words. I called an Uber and left. From the window, I saw Ethan and Marie hugging and giggling as if it was the best day of their lives. They got what they wanted, an heir and rid of me, just as they had planned. However, they didn't know I wouldn't leave so easily. I wasn't giving up my son, and I intended to teach them a lesson. While Ethan came from a wealthy family with powerful lawyers, I didn't have much money or resources. My chances of winning against them were slim to none. I knew I needed help, and Ace was my only option. I went straight to Ace's house with my belongings, feeling a twinge of nervousness. Ethan's words echoed in my head, reminding me of Ace's loyalty to his family. There was a small fear that he might turn me away in favor of them. After all, I felt like the nobody Marie and Ethan had always said I was. Still, I held on to hope that Ace at least would do the right thing. And I wasn't disappointed. When Ace entered the living room and spotted me with my suitcases, he seemed genuinely surprised. I thought my staff was joking when they said you showed up here with suitcases. I can see they were serious, he remarked. Well, they certainly were joking. I'm here, Grandpa, I replied, trying to hold back tears. What's going on, Cesal? Have you been crying? Your eyes look puffy and you really don't look well, Ace observed. They kicked me out of the house, Grandpa, and they took my son, telling me to get out of their lives, I explained, my voice quivering with emotion. Ace's expression darkened with anger. Who did this? Tell me everything right now, Cecily. As I recounted the events, I couldn't hold back my tears any longer. Despite trying to stay composed in front of Ethan and Marie, the truth was too much to bear. My life was unraveling, and everything I thought I knew about my marriage was a lie. Despite my love for Ethan, his betrayal had shattered me. Sitting on Ace's couch, I poured my heart out to him. He listened with concern, his anger matching mine as I recounted the injustices I had faced. After I had calmed down a little, I explained, I came here because I didn't know where else to go, Grandpa. You've always been kind to me, and I knew you would at least offer me temporary shelter. You did the right thing by coming here, Cecily. You can stay as long as you want. This is not just temporary shelter. This is also one of your homes, Ace reassured me. I don't think I have a home anymore, Grandpa. I don't even care about that. I just want my son back. I can't be without him. I'll leave Ethan like he wants me to, but I can't leave my son, I confessed. So, you decided to leave Ethan. Is that what you want to do? Ace inquired. I can't stay with him anymore, I replied firmly. Grandpa, he showed me his true colors, and I know he's not the man I loved. Our entire marriage was a lie. I think I've lost all the love I had for him, I confessed, my voice trembling with pain. My grandson has messed up big time, Cesal. I don't know how to apologize to you for this. What he and my daughter have done is not okay. Actually, I think it would be better for you to leave him, Ace admitted, his disappointment evident. I am willing to do that, Ace, but Ethan and Marie want me to terminate my rights to my kid. I don't want that, Ace. Please don't ask me to do that, I pleaded, fearing his response. I was terrified that Ace would side with Ethan and Marie on this matter. While he didn't push me to stay with Ethan, which I was grateful for, I worried he might not support my decision to take his great-grandson and leave. However, Ace's next words surprised me. I will never ask you to give up my great-grandson, Cesal. You are his mother, and he needs you in his life. What he doesn't need is an evil father and grandmother like Ethan and Marie, Ace declared passionately. Oh God, the things they have told you and what they have done to you are horrible. I don't know what to do, Grandpa, I admitted, feeling overwhelmed. My dear Cecily, you don't have to worry about anything. I'm here for you and my grandson. I will never separate a mother from her son. Ethan and Marie will pay for what they have done, Ace assured me, his voice filled with determination. Really? You'll take my side over them, Grandpa? They're your family, and like they said, blood is thicker than water. You always put your family above everyone else. That's what I liked about you, I said, surprised by his unwavering support. That's some nonsense, Cecily. If Ethan and Marie are my family, you and my grandson are too, Ace replied firmly, leaving no room for doubt. I gave you the mission to call me Grandpa instead of my name because you are family to me. At the end of the day, I won't tolerate anyone being so cruel and vile, even if they are my own family. So Marie and Ethan are going down, no matter what. Ace's kindness brought tears to my eyes, but in a good way. I was truly fortunate to have Ace as my grandpa. He filled a little hole in my chest that was there because I never met my own grandparents. I will always be grateful to Ace for what he did for me. He was furious and promised me justice. Quickly, he called his staff and made a few phone calls. Meanwhile, Ace's housekeeper stayed with me, ensuring I had food and was all right. It was ironic that an unknown woman was showing me more compassion than my own husband and mother-in-law. I hated myself for falling in love with a man like that. After a while, Ace returned to the living room and asked me to come with him. In the car, he shared his plan for Ethan and Marie. It was glorious, and I couldn't help but feel a little sorry for what was about to happen to them. Their lives were about to take a drastic turn for the worse. We arrived at the house, and the staff let me in because Ace was with me. Ethan and Marie came rushing down the stairs to see why I was there. However, their demeanor changed when they saw Ace's angry face. It was enough to send shivers down anyone's spine. Despite their attempts to maintain a fake pleasant expression, their nervousness was evident. They greeted Ace, trying to mask their apprehension. Do I look like I'm here for lunch, Marie? Why on earth did you kick out your daughter-in-law? And what am I hearing about taking away my great-grandson from her? There was also something mentioned about a divorce. Care to explain that, Ethan? I don't know what you're talking about, Grandpa. Cecily left of her own accord. She said she doesn't want to be a mom or a wife anymore. We didn't do anything, Ethan replied hastily. That's right, Dad. Cecily walked away on her own, and now she's spreading lies about us. I always knew she wasn't a good fit for the family, and now you know what kind of a horrible woman she is, Marie chimed in, attempting to paint me as the villain. Their attempt to twist the narrative shocked me. For a moment, I feared Ace would believe them. Even Ethan and Marie seemed confident he would, but they were left flabbergasted by Ace's response. Do you think I don't know what goes on in this house? Do you think you can manipulate me with lies? Dad, we're not lying to you. Shut up right now. I don't want any filthy lies coming out of your mouth. Have you forgotten that this house is in my name? The staff here are on my salary, so they tell me everything that happens around here. Yes, I know everything that you two have tried to do. Did you really think I would let you off the hook so easily after you manipulated me and Cecily? I can't believe this, Grandpa. Please, you have to understand. I don't love Cecily. I only married her to make you happy, Ethan pleaded. Oh, don't worry. I know all about how you had planned to use and discard Cecily, but only married her because you didn't want to risk losing your inheritance. You think that was a noble thing to do, Ethan? Is that the values you uphold? I taught you. Perhaps it was your good-for-nothing mother who made you this way. Ethan tried to interject, but Ace shut him down immediately. Did I give you permission to talk, Marie? Ace's voice was sharp, cutting through the tension in the room. Marie and Ethan were now seriously scared, while Ace remained very, very angry. I couldn't help but enjoy watching them being scolded by Ace. It was glorious, but I knew it was just the start of the show. Ace continued to berate Ethan and Marie for a good hour, reducing them to tears. He reminded them that they were both at his mercy because they lived on his money. When he was done, Ethan was literally on his knees, begging for forgiveness, while Marie cried like a child. I'm so sorry, Grandpa. I can see that I made a big mistake. I was just overwhelmed and made the wrong decision, Ethan pleaded, his voice shaky with remorse. Yes, we're sorry, Dad. We truly recognize our mistakes. We shouldn't have separated a mother from her child. Cesal can move back here if she wants to. Yes, she can come back, and we'll welcome her with open arms. I promise I will be a better husband, too. I will work on myself. Things will go back to being perfect again. Ethan rambled, desperation evident in his tone. I don't think any of this is your decision to make. You two are no one to allow her back into the house because this house is mine. Plus, it's up to Cesal to decide if she wants to stay married to an imbecile like you, Ethan. What do you say, Cesal? Do you forgive them? Ace turned to me, awaiting my response. I knew well enough that if I said no, there would be dire consequences for my husband and mother-in-law. But I couldn't bring myself to say yes, knowing their remorse was only surface level. So, I calmly looked at Ace and said, No, I don't think I can forgive them, Grandpa. Plus, I haven't even asked for my forgiveness. Please forgive me, Cesal. We made a huge mistake, dear. We are family, so let's just look past this one time. I'm sure we will have a stronger bond after this, Ethan pleaded once more. Don't even bother with lies anymore, guys. You know what you two are. Even if you turn a new leaf and become nice to me, deep down, you two are awful people, and I don't associate myself with people like you, I replied firmly. Good decision, Cesal. I applaud you for that. So you heard her, Ethan, Marie. Looks like you two are in deep trouble, Ace concluded, his voice unwavering. Now you two need to vacate this house right now so that Cesal and my great-grandson can stay here, Ace declared firmly. What? You're kicking us out? You can't do that to us, Dad, Ethan protested. My staff has already started to pack your bags on my order. I will have you two thrown out just like you tried to throw out Cesal. Oh, and one other thing, you can kiss your allowances goodbye. I won't be wasting any more money on imbeciles, Ace retorted, his tone unyielding. Ethan and Marie absolutely cracked up when Ace made his decision. They begged and pleaded with him for mercy, even appealing to me for forgiveness, knowing that only I had the power to sway Grandpa Ace from his decision. But Ace remained resolute, keeping them in a state of despair with his relentless berating. Ultimately, the house staff arrived with their belongings, which Ace promptly threw at them, instructing them to leave. Seeing Ace so angry, they quickly departed before he could publicly make a scene by having his staff escort them out. I didn't know where Ethan and Marie went after this. What I do know is that they kept blowing up my phone with apologies and sometimes nasty messages. They desperately wanted to come home and make things better with Ace, but he was definitely not having it. They even tried to recruit family members who strictly denied them help because of Ace, leaving them to fend for themselves. Eventually, Ethan and I divorced and he lost custody of our son. I was happy because I didn't want his evil influence on my child. I was already living in the house I used to live in because Ace didn't want his great-grandson and me to be away from comfort. He actually ended up signing over the house to me, leaving most of his assets to my son in a trust so that he can access them when he's older. As for me, Ethan is stuck paying child support and alimony since he has a job. It's not much for me because Ace also gives me an allowance, but it is a lot for Ethan, who now has to support his mother and live on a small income.
You're never going to be as perfect as my mother. Jasper's words cut through the air like a knife. I stand there stunned as my husband of 5 years glares at me with a mixture of anger and contempt. I'm not your mother, and I never will be, I shoot back, my voice trembling with rage. I'm done trying to live up to her impossible standards. Jasper scoffs, rolling his eyes. You couldn't even if you tried. She's everything you're not, elegant, refined, and knows how to keep a home. I feel my blood boil. Is that what you want? A housewife who caters to your every whim? Well, I've got news for you, Jasper. I'm my own person, with my own dreams and aspirations. I won't be your little puppet. He steps closer, his face inches from mine. You knew what you were getting into when you married me. I thought you'd be different, but you're just like all the rest, selfish and ungrateful. Tears sting my eyes, but I refuse to let them fall. I won't give him the satisfaction of seeing me cry. If wanting to be treated with respect and equality makes me selfish, then so be it. I'm not going to apologize for standing up for myself. Jasper's jaw clenches, and for a moment I think he might hit me. But instead he turns on his heel and storms out of the room, slamming the door behind him. I sink to the floor, my legs no longer able to support me. How did we get here? When did the man I fell in love with turn into this cruel, controlling stranger? I think back to our early days when Jasper was charming and attentive. He swept me off my feet with grand gestures and promises of a beautiful future together. But as soon as we said I do, everything changed. At first it was subtle. A snide comment here, a disapproving look there. But over time his behavior became more overt. He started dictating what I could wear, who I could see, and how I should spend my time. He even convinced me to quit my job, claiming that he wanted me to focus on being a homemaker. I thought I could handle it, that I could be the perfect wife he wanted. But no matter how hard I tried, it was never enough. And now as I sit here on the cold, hard floor, I realize that I've lost myself in the process. A sudden wave of determination washes over me. I won't let Jasper break me. I won't let him control my life any longer. I push myself up, wiping away the tears that have managed to escape. It's time to take back my power, to rediscover the strong, independent woman I once was. I don't know how I'll do it, but I know I can't continue living like this. As I stand there, staring at the closed door, I make a silent vow to myself. I will find a way out of this toxic marriage, no matter what it takes. I will rebuild my life on my own terms, and I will never again let anyone dim my light. With a deep breath, I take my first step towards freedom, towards the future I know I deserve. It won't be easy, but I'm ready to fight for it, for myself and for the life I know I'm meant to live. As I sit in my car, parked outside Naomi's house, I can't help but reflect on the past 5 years of my marriage. How did I let things get so bad? I used to be a strong, independent woman, but somehow Jasper managed to chip away at my self-esteem, piece by piece. I think back to the early warning signs. The way he would criticize my cooking, my appearance, even the way I laughed. At first I brushed it off as him being particular, but now I see it for what it was, a systematic attempt to control every aspect of my life. And then there were the lies. The late nights at the office, the mysterious phone calls, the sudden trips out of town. I always had a nagging suspicion that something wasn't right, but I never had the courage to confront him. Until now. I take a deep breath and exit the car, making my way up the path to Naomi's front door. She opens it before I even have a chance to knock, enveloping me in a tight hug. "I'm so glad you're here," she whispers, leading me inside. "I've been worried sick about you." We settle onto her couch, and I pour out my heart, telling her everything that's happened over the past few weeks. The arguments, the accusations, the growing distance between Jasper and me. "I think he's cheating on me," I confess, my voice barely above a whisper. "With his new secretary, Scarlett." Naomi's eyes widen. "That little tramp? I knew there was something off about her the moment I met her." I nod, feeling a mix of anger and despair wash over me. "I don't know what to do. Naomi, I feel like I'm losing my mind." She takes my hand, her expression fierce. "You need to find out the truth, Arya. You deserve to know what's really going on." I bite my lip, hesitating. "But how? Jasper's so secretive. He barely lets me near his phone or computer." Naomi leans in, a glint of determination in her eyes. "Leave that to me. I have a friend who's a private investigator. He owes me a favor." I feel a flicker of hope ignite in my chest. Maybe, just maybe, I can finally get the answers I need. Over the next few days, Naomi's friend tails Jasper, gathering evidence of his infidelity. When he presents me with the proof, photos of Jasper and Scarlett in compromising positions, recordings of their intimate conversations, I feel like I've been punched in the gut. But beneath the pain, there's a simmering rage. How dare he betray me like this? How dare he make a mockery of our marriage vows? I confront Jasper that night, throwing the evidence in his face. He has the audacity to deny it at first, but when he realizes he's been caught, his demeanor changes. So what if I'm sleeping with her? He sneers, his eyes cold. It's not like you're fulfilling my needs. You're a pathetic excuse for a wife. I see red. Before I know what I'm doing, I'm screaming at him, hurling every insult I can think of. He matches me, word for word, his voice rising until we're both shouting at the top of our lungs. And then, suddenly, he's on me, his hands around my throat, squeezing the air from my lungs. I claw at his fingers, gasping for breath, but he's too strong. Black spots dance in my vision as I feel myself slipping away. The next thing I know, I'm waking up in a hospital bed, my head throbbing and my arm in a cast. The doctors tell me I'm lucky to be alive, that I suffered a concussion and a broken arm from falling down the stairs. But I know the truth. Jasper pushed me. And if it hadn't been for a neighbor hearing the commotion and calling the police, I might not have survived. As I lie there, bruised and broken, I make a decision. I won't let Jasper win. I won't let him destroy me. I'll do whatever it takes to bring him to justice and rebuild my life, even if it means facing my darkest fears and confronting the ugliest parts of myself. The hospital room is cold and sterile, the beeping of machines my only company. I stare at the stark white ceiling, trying to process the events of the past few hours. How could Jasper do this to me? How could he hurt me like this? As if on cue, the door opens and my father Henry walks in. His face is etched with worry, his eyes red-rimmed from lack of sleep. "Arya, my baby girl," he whispers, rushing to my bedside. "I came as soon as I heard. Are you okay?" I try to smile, but it comes out as more of a grimace. "I've been better, Dad, but I'll survive." He takes my hand, his grip firm and reassuring. "I know you will, sweetheart. You're the strongest person I know." Tears prick at the corners of my eyes. I don't feel very strong right now. I feel like a fool for not seeing Jasper for who he really is. My father's expression hardens. That man is a monster. I always had a bad feeling about him, but I never imagined he'd go this far. I nod, swallowing the lump in my throat. "There's more, Dad. I found out he's been embezzling money from his father's company, and he's been using it to fund his affair with his secretary." Henry's eyes widen. "Embezzlement? Affair? Jesus, Arya, you need to get away from him. Press charges. Make him pay for what he's done." I hesitate, fear gripping my heart. But what if he comes after me? What if he tries to hurt me again? My father's jaw clenches. He won't get the chance. I'll make sure of it. I may be retired, but I still have connections on the force. We'll get a restraining order, and I'll personally see to it that he's arrested for assault. Relief washes over me, followed by a sudden wave of nausea. I lurch forward, my hand flying to my mouth. "Arya, what's wrong?" my father asks, alarmed. I shake my head, trying to steady my breathing. "I don't know. I just feel sick all of a sudden." A nurse enters the room, a clipboard in hand. "Miss Hawthorne, I have your test results back." I look up, my heart pounding. "Test results? What test results?" The nurse gives me a sympathetic smile. "The pregnancy test, dear. Congratulations. You're going to be a mother." The room spins, and I feel like I might pass out. Pregnant? How can this be happening? I can't bring a child into this mess. I can't let Jasper have any more power over me. My father squeezes my hand, his voice gentle. "Arya, listen to me. This baby is a blessing, a chance for a fresh start. You can do this. You can be an amazing mother." I close my eyes, trying to imagine a future where I'm not constantly looking over my shoulder, waiting for Jasper to strike. A future where my child is safe and loved and protected. "You're right, Dad," I say, my voice barely above a whisper. "I can do this. I have to do this. For my baby and for myself." I open my eyes, a newfound determination coursing through my veins. I'm filing for divorce, and I'm going to make sure Jasper pays for everything he's done, to me and to his family's company. My father nods, a proud smile on his face. "That's my girl. I'll be with you every step of the way. We'll get through this together." As I lie there, my hand resting on my still flat stomach, I feel a flicker of hope. Maybe this baby is a sign. A reminder that even in the darkest of times there's still a chance for light, for love, for a future worth fighting for. And fight I will, with every ounce of strength I have left in me, for my child, and for the woman I know I can become. Jasper may have broken my bones, but he'll never break my spirit. Not now, not ever. The divorce papers feel heavy in my hands as I sit across from Jasper and his mother, Evelyn. Her eyes are cold, her lips pressed into a thin line of disapproval. "Arya, dear," she says, her voice dripping with false concern. "Are you sure this is what you want? A divorce is so final. Think of the family name. Think of Jasper's reputation." I feel a surge of anger. Jasper's reputation? What about my well-being? What about the fact that he pushed me down the stairs and nearly killed me and our unborn child? Evelyn waves a dismissive hand. "Oh, don't be so dramatic. It was an accident. Jasper would never intentionally hurt you." I laugh, the sound bitter and hollow. "An accident? Is that what he told you? Well, let me tell you the truth, Evelyn. Your son is a monster. He's been cheating on me, embezzling money, and abusing me for years. And I'm done. I'm done being his punching bag and his doormat." Jasper leans forward, his eyes narrowed. "You're making a mistake, Arya. You'll never survive without me. You're nothing without me." I meet his gaze, unflinching. "That's where you're wrong, Jasper. I'm everything without you, and I'm going to make sure you pay for what you've done, to me and to your father's company." Evelyn gasps, her hand flying to her chest. "What are you talking about? Jasper would never steal from his own father." I slide a folder across the table. "I have proof. Bank statements, emails, recordings. He's been embezzling for years, using the money to fund his lavish lifestyle and his affair with his secretary." Jasper's face pales, and for a moment I see a flicker of fear in his eyes. But then it's gone, replaced by cold, hard rage. "You bitch!" he snarls, lunging across the table. "I'll kill you for this." But before he can reach me, my father steps forward, placing himself between us. "Touch her again, and I'll make sure you rot in prison for the rest of your miserable life." Evelyn is sobbing now, her carefully crafted facade crumbling. "Jasper, tell me it's not true. Tell me this is all a misunderstanding." But Jasper says nothing, his jaw clenched tight. I can see the wheels turning in his head, trying to find a way out of this mess. I stand up, my head held high. "It's over, Jasper. I'm filing for divorce, and I'm taking full custody of our child. You'll pay child support, and you'll stay away from us. Forever." I turn to Evelyn, my voice softening. "I know you love your son, Evelyn, but he needs help. He needs to face the consequences of his actions, and if you truly care about him, you'll let him do that." With that, I walk out of the room, my father by my side. I feel a weight lift off my shoulders, a sense of freedom I haven't felt in years. But I know this is just the beginning. Jasper won't go down without a fight. He'll try to weasel his way out of this, to manipulate the system in his favor. But I'm ready. I have the truth on my side, and I have the support of the people who love me. My father, Naomi, now my unborn child. As I step out into the sunlight, I take a deep breath, feeling the warmth on my face. For the first time in a long time, I feel hope. Hope for a better future, a future free from fear and pain. I place a hand on my stomach, a small smile playing at the corners of my lips. "It's just you and me now, little one, but we're going to be okay. We're going to make it through this, and we're going to come out stronger on the other side." And with that, I take my first steps towards my new life, my head held high and my heart full of determination. Jasper may have broken my bones, but he'll never break my spirit. Not now, not ever. The weeks following my confrontation with Jasper and Evelyn are a blur of legal meetings and doctor's appointments. My father, true to his word, has been by my side every step of the way, helping me navigate the complex world of divorce proceedings and criminal investigations. Today we sit in his study, poring over the evidence he's managed to gather on Jasper's shady dealings. Bank statements, phone records, surveillance photos, it's all there, painting a damning picture of a man consumed by greed and power. "I've seen a lot of scumbags in my time on the force," my father says, shaking his head. But Jasper takes the cake. The things he's done, the people he's hurt, it's unforgivable. I nod, my eyes fixed on a particularly incriminating email exchange between Jasper and a known associate of the mob. I just don't understand how he could do this, how he could betray his own family, his own wife, for money and power. My father sighs, leaning back in his chair. "Some people are just wired differently, Arya. They don't have a conscience or a sense of right and wrong. They'll do whatever it takes to get what they want, no matter who gets hurt in the process." I feel a chill run down my spine, remembering the cold, calculating look in Jasper's eyes as he lunged at me across the table. "Do you think he'll go to prison? For the embezzlement and for what he did to me?" My father nods, his jaw set in determination. I'll make damn sure of it. I've already turned over all the evidence to the authorities. They're building a case against him as we speak. Relief washes over me, followed by a sudden wave of fear. But what if he tries to come after me? What if he tries to take our child away? My father leans forward, taking my hand in his. Arya, listen to me. I won't let that happen. I'll do whatever it takes to keep you and my grandchild safe. Even if it means putting myself between you and Jasper. Tears prick at the corners of my eyes, and I squeeze my father's hand. I don't know what I'd do without you, Dad. You've been my rock through all of this. He smiles, his eyes soft with love. That's what fathers are for, sweetheart, to protect their children, no matter what. We sit in silence for a moment, the weight of the past few months hanging heavy in the air. Finally, my father clears his throat, his expression turning serious. There's something else you should know, Arya. Something about Jasper's past. I feel a knot form in the pit of my stomach. What is it? My father takes a deep breath, as if steeling himself for what he's about to say. I did some digging, and it turns out this isn't the first time Jasper's been accused of domestic violence. His ex-girlfriend, a woman named Tara, filed a restraining order against him years ago. She claimed he beat her, threatened to kill her if she ever left him. I feel like I might be sick. Oh my God, why didn't I know about this? Why didn't anyone warn me? My father shakes his head, his expression grim. He had it sealed, buried deep, probably paid off a judge or two to make it go away. But it's all coming out now. The truth always has a way of coming to light. I close my eyes, trying to process this new information. How could I have been so blind? How could I have missed the signs? But even as I berate myself, I feel a new sense of determination taking hold. I won't let Jasper get away with this. I won't let him hurt anyone else the way he hurt me. I open my eyes, meeting my father's gaze with a steely resolve. We have to stop him, Dad. We have to make sure he never lays a hand on another woman again. My father nods, a proud smile playing at the corners of his lips. That's my girl. We'll take him down, Arya, together, and we'll make sure he pays for every last one of his sins. The sound of shattering glass jolts me awake, my heart pounding in my chest. For a moment, I'm disoriented, my mind still foggy with sleep. But then I hear it again, the unmistakable sound of footsteps creeping through my apartment. Fear grips me, cold and paralyzing. I know it's Jasper. I can feel it in my bones. He's come for me, just like I always feared he would. I reach for my phone with shaking hands, dialing 911. But before I can even get a word out, my bedroom door bursts open and there he is. His eyes wild, his face contorted with rage. You stupid bitch, he snarls, stalking towards me. You thought you could ruin me? You thought you could take everything away from me? I scramble out of bed, my legs tangling in the sheets. Jasper, please, don't do this. Think about our child. He laughs, the sound harsh and mocking. Our child? You mean the bastard you're carrying? That thing is no child of mine. Tears stream down my face as I back away from him, my eyes darting around the room for an escape. But he's blocking the only exit, his body coiled with menace. I'm going to make you pay, Arya. I'm going to make you suffer for what you've done to me. He lunges at me, his hands outstretched. I dodge to the side, my instincts taking over. I've spent years being his victim, but not anymore. Not tonight. I grab the lamp from my bedside table, swinging it with all my might. It connects with Jasper's head with a sickening crack, sending him stumbling backwards. I don't waste a second. I run, my bare feet pounding against the hardwood floors. I can hear Jasper behind me, his footsteps heavy and unsteady. I make it to the front door, my fingers fumbling with the lock. But before I can wrench it open, Jasper is on me, his hands wrapping around my throat. You're not going anywhere, he growls, his breath hot against my face. You're mine, Arya. You'll always be mine. Black spots dance in my vision as he squeezes tighter, cutting off my air supply. I claw at his hands, desperate for release. But he's too strong, too fueled by rage and hatred. Just as I feel myself slipping away, the sound of sirens pierces the air. Jasper's grip loosens, his head whipping towards the window. Police! Open up! He curses under his breath, releasing me. I collapse to the floor, gasping for air. The next few moments are a blur of shouts and splintering wood as the police break down the door. They swarm into the apartment, their guns drawn. Jasper Hawthorne, You're under arrest for attempted murder and breaking and entering. I watch as they handcuff him, his eyes still blazing with fury. But as they lead him away, I feel a sense of relief wash over me. It's over. He can't hurt me anymore. My father is there, his arms wrapping around me in a tight embrace. It's okay, Arya. You're safe now. He's never going to touch you again. I nod, my body shaking with sobs. I thought he was going to kill me, Dad. I thought I was going to die. He strokes my hair, his voice soft and soothing. But you didn't. You fought back. You survived. And now he's going to pay for everything he's done. As the adrenaline fades, I feel a new emotion taking hold, a fierce, burning anger. Jasper may be in custody, but this isn't over, not by a long shot. I'll see him brought to justice. I'll make sure he spends the rest of his miserable life behind bars, and I'll do it all for our child, the innocent life he so callously dismissed. I may be battered and bruised, but I'm not broken. I'm a survivor, and I'll never let anyone make me feel powerless again. The courtroom is packed, the air thick with tension. I sit at the prosecutor's table, my father and Naomi by my side. Jasper is across the aisle, his face a mask of cold indifference. The trial has been a grueling ordeal, each day bringing new revelations of Jasper's cruelty and deceit. But today, as the final witness takes the stand, I feel a sense of anticipation building in my chest. Scarlett, Jasper's former mistress, looks nervous as she's sworn in. Her eyes dart around the room, avoiding Jasper's icy stare. Miss Johnson, the prosecutor begins, can you please tell the court about your relationship with the defendant? Scarlett takes a deep breath, her hands trembling slightly. We were lovers. He told me he was going to leave his wife for me, that we were going to start a new life together. Jasper's lawyer jumps to his feet. Objection. Relevance? The judge waves him off. Overruled. Continue, Miss Johnson. Scarlett nods, her voice growing stronger. He promised me the world, but it was all a lie. He never had any intention of leaving Arya. He was just using me, like he used everyone else in his life. I feel a pang of sympathy for Scarlett, despite everything. She was just another pawn in Jasper's twisted game. The prosecutor presses on, his voice firm. And what happened when you confronted him about his lies? Scarlett's eyes fill with tears. He hit me. He told me I was nothing, that I meant nothing to him. He said if I ever told anyone about us, he'd kill me. The courtroom erupts in gasps and murmurs. I glance at Jasper, expecting to see anger or defiance, but instead I see something else. Fear. As Scarlett steps down from the stand, the prosecutor calls his final witness. The state calls Evelyn Hawthorne to the stand. I watch in disbelief as Jasper's mother takes the oath, her face a mask of sorrow and regret. Mrs. Hawthorne, the prosecutor says gently, I know this must be difficult for you, but can you please tell the court about your son's behavior towards his wife? Evelyn takes a shuddering breath, her eyes fixed on her hands. I knew he was hurting her. I saw the bruises, heard the fights, but I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to believe my son could be capable of such things. She looks up, her gaze locking with mine. But I was wrong. I was so wrong. And I'm so sorry, Arya. I should have protected you. I should have stopped him. Tears stream down my face as Evelyn's words wash over me. For so long I thought I was alone in this fight. But now I see that I have allies in the most unexpected places. The prosecutor turns to the jury, his voice ringing with conviction. Ladies and gentlemen, you have heard the evidence. You have heard the testimony of the brave women who survived Jasper Hawthorne's abuse. And now it's time for justice to be served. The jury deliberates for less than an hour before returning with their verdict, guilty on all counts. I feel a rush of emotion as the judge reads out the sentence, 25 years to life, with no chance of parole. It's over. It's finally over. As the bailiffs lead Jasper away, he turns to me, his eyes burning with hatred. This isn't over, Arya. I'll find a way to make you pay for this. But I just smile, my head held high. No, Jasper, you're the one who's going to pay for the rest of your miserable life. I walk out of the courtroom, my father and Naomi by my side. The sun is shining, the air crisp and clean. For the first time in years, I feel truly free. I know the road ahead won't be easy. I have a child to raise, a life to rebuild. But I also know that I'm not alone. I have the love and support of my family, my friends, and my own unbreakable spirit. And that's enough. That's more than enough. 5 years. That's how long it's been since I walked out of that courtroom, my head held high and my heart finally free. 5 years of raising my daughter, of building a life on my own terms, 5 years of healing, of learning to trust again, of rediscovering the strength that Jasper tried so hard to steal from me. But now, as I watch Lily play in the park, her laughter ringing out like a bell, I feel a familiar sense of unease creeping up my spine. Because today is the day that Jasper is being released from prison, his sentence cut short by some bureaucratic loophole that I still don't fully understand. I've been dreading this moment for months, ever since I got the call from the prison warden. I knew it was coming, but somehow I still feel unprepared. How do you face the man who nearly destroyed you, who left scars on your body and your soul that will never fully heal? I'm jolted out of my thoughts by a voice calling my name. I turn, my heart dropping into my stomach. It's Jasper, his face leaner and harder than I remember, his eyes still filled with that same cold hatred. "Arya," he says, his voice dripping with false charm. "It's been a long time." I stand up, my body tense and ready for a fight. "What do you want, Jasper?" He smiles, the expression not quite reaching his eyes. "I want to see my daughter, of course. I have rights, you know." I shake my head, my voice trembling with barely suppressed rage. "You lost those rights the moment you laid a hand on me, the moment you tried to kill me and our unborn child." Jasper takes a step forward, his fists clenched at his sides. "Don't test me, Arya. I've spent the last 5 years dreaming of this moment, dreaming of the day I'd finally get to see you and Lily again." I stand my ground, my chin lifted in defiance. "You'll never see her, Jasper, not as long as I'm alive." He laughs, the sound harsh and grating. "You think you can stop me? You think you have any power here?" I feel a sudden surge of strength, the same strength that carried me through the darkest days of my marriage, through the long and painful journey of rebuilding my life. "I have all the power, Jasper, because I'm not afraid of you anymore. I'm not the same woman you married, the same woman you tried to break. I'm stronger now, stronger than you'll ever be." Jasper's face twists with rage, his hands balling into fists. But before he can take a step, I hear a voice calling out from behind me. "Mommy!" I turn, my heart swelling with love and pride as I see Lily running towards me, her face flushed with joy. I scoop her up into my arms, holding her close. "Hey, baby girl," I murmur, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "I love you so much." I turn back to Jasper, my voice steady and calm. "This is my life now, Jasper. This is my family, and you have no place in it. Not now, not ever." For a moment, I see a flicker of something in his eyes, regret, perhaps, or even a hint of shame. But it's gone as quickly as it appeared, replaced by that same cold, hard anger. "This isn't over, Arya," he says, his voice low and menacing. "You can't keep me from my own flesh and blood." I shake my head, a small smile playing at the corners of my lips. "Watch me." And with that, I turn and walk away, Lily still nestled in my arms. I can feel Jasper's eyes boring into my back, but I don't look back. I don't give him the satisfaction. Because I know deep in my bones that I've already won. I've won the battle for my own soul, for my own happiness, and no matter what Jasper does, no matter how hard he tries, he'll never be able to take that away from me. I am a survivor, I am a warrior, and I will never, ever let anyone make me feel powerless again. I stare at the pile of my belongings haphazardly strewn in the hallway, my heart sinking with each passing second. The door to my loft, my sanctuary, remains firmly shut. The locks changed without my knowledge or consent. Confusion and disbelief wage a war inside me as I try to comprehend the scene before me. "Surprise!" Marcy's voice cuts through the haze, her tone dripping with false cheer. She emerges from behind the door, a smug grin plastered on her face. "I'm pregnant, and we need a bigger place. Your loft is perfect." Her words hit me like a sucker punch, knocking the wind out of my lungs. "What? You can't just take over my home, Marcy. This is my place, my life." "Oh, come on, Tessa. You're never here anyway, always jetting off to some work thing. It's time to grow up and think about family." She rests her hand on her still flat stomach, her eyes glinting with a challenge. Anger bubbles up inside me, mixing with the sting of betrayal. "Family? You mean the one that changes my locks and throws my stuff out without even a conversation?" Marcy rolls her eyes, dismissing my outrage with a flippant wave of her hand. "Don't be so dramatic. You can crash with Mom and Dad for a while. They'll be thrilled to have you back home." And what about my job, my responsibilities? I can't just upend my life because you decided to get knocked up. The words come out harsher than I intend, but the hurt fuels my indignation. Responsibilities? Marcy scoffs, her lips curling into a sneer. You mean like the way you've been playing the martyr, acting like you're the only one holding this family together? Well, guess what? It's my turn now. I need this more than you do. Her callousness cuts deep, the weight of her entitlement pressing down on my chest. You can't just take what's mine, Marcy. This is my home, my life. You have no right. No right. She laughs, the sound grating against my ears. I have every right. I'm the one starting a family, while you're just playing house in your fancy loft. It's time for you to step aside and let me have my chance. Tears prick at the corners of my eyes, but I refuse to let them fall. I won't give her the satisfaction of seeing me crumble. This isn't over, Marcy. You can't just steamroll over my life like this. Watch me. Her voice is cold, her eyes glinting with a triumphant gleam. Face it, Tessa, you've always been the responsible one, the one who cleans up everyone's messes. Well, now it's time for you to clean up your own. With those cutting words, she turns on her heel and slams the door in my face, leaving me standing amidst the wreckage of my life. The click of the lock echoes in the hallway, a brutal finality to her actions. I sink to the floor, my back pressed against the wall, as the weight of her betrayal crashes over me. How could she do this? How could my own sister, my flesh and blood, turn against me like this? As I sit there, surrounded by the scattered remnants of my life, a fierce determination takes root inside me. I won't let her win. I won't let her destroy everything I've worked so hard to build. I'll find a way to fight back, to reclaim what's rightfully mine. Marcy may think she's won, but she has no idea the storm that's coming her way. Growing up, I always felt like I was living in Marcy's shadow. She was the charming one, the free spirit who could light up a room with her smile. I, on the other hand, was the responsible one, the diligent daughter who worked hard to make something of myself. Our parents, Janet and Harold, always seemed to favor Marcy. They indulged her every whim, bailing her out of trouble time and time again. I remember the countless nights I stayed up late, studying for exams or working on projects, while Marcy was out partying with her friends. When I landed my first job as a marketing consultant, I thought things would change. I hoped that my parents would finally see me as an equal, someone to be proud of. But even then, Marcy managed to steal the spotlight. Tessa, honey, we're so proud of you, Mom said during one of our weekly phone calls. But have you heard about Marcy's latest adventure? She's going to backpack through Europe for a few months. Isn't that exciting? I gritted my teeth, trying to keep the bitterness out of my voice. That's great, Mom, but what about my promotion at work? I thought you'd be happy for me. Of course we are, dear. It's just that Marcy's trip sounds so thrilling. You should try to be more spontaneous like her. Those words cut deep, reinforcing the notion that no matter what I achieved, Marcy would always be the favored child. As the years went by, I found myself financially supporting my parents, believing that the money was going towards their retirement. I sent them monthly checks, sacrificing my own savings to ensure they were comfortable. Little did I know that a significant portion of that money was being funneled straight into Marcy's pockets. She would call up our parents, spinning tales of financial woe and begging for help. And they, ever the doting parents, would readily dip into the funds I provided to bail her out. It wasn't until I started noticing discrepancies in my own finances that I began to suspect something was amiss. I pored over bank statements and credit card bills, my heart sinking with each transaction I couldn't account for. When I confronted my parents about it, they were evasive at first. Tessa, you know we would never misuse your money, Dad said, his voice strained. We've just had some unexpected expenses, that's all. But I wouldn't let it go. I pushed and prodded until the truth finally came out. They had been using my money to fund Marcy's lavish lifestyle, from designer clothes to exotic vacations. The betrayal cut me to the core. I had trusted them, believed that they had my best interests at heart, but all along, they had been enabling Marcy's reckless behavior at my expense. How could you do this to me? I asked, my voice trembling with a mixture of anger and hurt. I worked so hard to support you, to make sure you were taken care of, and this is how you repay me? Mom had the decency to look ashamed, but Dad remained defensive. Marcy needed our help, Tessa. She's family, and we couldn't turn our backs on her. But what about me? I shot back, the tears threatening to spill over. Am I not family too? Or am I just a convenient ATM for you to use whenever Marcy gets herself into trouble? The silence that followed was deafening. In that moment, I realized that I had always been an afterthought in their eyes. Marcy was the golden child, the one they would move heaven and earth for. I was just the reliable one, the one they took for granted. As I walked out of their house that day, my heart shattered into a million pieces. I made a vow to myself. I would no longer be a pawn in their games. I would cut the financial ties that bound me to their manipulation and claim my independence, no matter the cost. With my belongings hastily packed into boxes and suitcases, I find myself standing on my best friend Emily's doorstep, feeling like a refugee from my own life. She opens the door, her eyes widening as she takes in my disheveled appearance. "Tessa, what happened?" she asks, ushering me inside. I collapse onto her couch, the weight of the past few hours crashing down on me. Through choked sobs, I pour out the story of Marcy's betrayal and my parents' complicity in her schemes. Emily listens intently, her brow furrowed with concern. "I can't believe they would do this to you," she says, shaking her head. "After everything you've done for them." "I feel like such a fool," I confess, wiping away the tears that refused to stop falling. "I trusted them, Em. I thought I was doing the right thing by supporting them." She sits down beside me, wrapping an arm around my shoulders. "You can't blame yourself, Tess. They took advantage of your kindness." As I lean into her comforting embrace, my mind races with the implications of my family's actions. I know I can't continue down this path, enabling their behavior at the cost of my own well-being. Over the next few days, as I settle into Emily's spare room, I begin to formulate a plan. I dive into my financial records, piecing together the extent of my parents' deceit. The more I uncover, the more my resolve hardens. I discover that they've been siphoning off money from the account I set up for their retirement, funneling it into Marcy's frivolous pursuits. Designer clothes, expensive trips, even a down payment on a luxury car, all funded by the money I had worked so hard to provide. The betrayal cuts deeper with each revelation, fueling the anger that simmers beneath my skin. I know I can't let this continue. I have to take a stand, to cut the financial ties that have bound me to their manipulation for far too long. I meet with a financial advisor, seeking guidance on how to disentangle myself from the mess my family has created. He helps me set up new accounts, separate from the ones my parents have been leeching off of. "You're making the right decision," he assures me, his voice filled with understanding. "It's not easy, but sometimes we have to put ourselves first." As I sign the paperwork, a sense of empowerment washes over me. For the first time in my life, I feel like I'm taking control, asserting my independence from the toxic dynamics that have held me back for so long. But even as I take these steps towards freedom, I know that the hardest part is yet to come. I have to confront my parents, to make them understand the consequences of their actions. I steel myself for the inevitable showdown, rehearsing the words I'll say over and over in my mind. I won't let them manipulate me anymore, won't let them twist the truth to suit their own selfish needs. As I walk into their house, my heart pounds in my chest, but I refuse to let my resolve waver. They look up at me, their faces etched with a mixture of surprise and apprehension. "Tessa, what's going on?" Mom asks, her voice trembling slightly. I take a deep breath, steadying myself for the confrontation that's about to unfold. "We need to talk," I say, my voice firm and unwavering. "About the money, about Marcy, about everything." Their eyes widen, guilt flashing across their features. They know that the truth is about to come out, that the carefully constructed web of lies they've spun is about to unravel. And as I stand there, ready to face the storm, I know that this is just the beginning. The road ahead may be rocky, but I'm determined to forge my own path, to break free from the chains of my family's manipulation and claim the life I deserve. The family gathering is in full swing when I arrive, the sound of laughter and chatter filling the air. I take a deep breath, steeling myself for the confrontation that's about to unfold. With a stack of credit card statements clutched in my hand, I make my way through the crowd, my eyes scanning the room for Marcy. I find her holding court in the kitchen, surrounded by a group of admiring relatives. She's regaling them with tales of her latest shopping spree, bragging about the designer clothes and expensive jewelry she's acquired. "Marcy, we need to talk," I say, my voice cutting through the frivolity like a knife. She turns to face me, her eyes narrowing as she takes in the serious expression on my face. "Can't it wait, Tessa? I'm in the middle of a story." "No, it can't." I hold up the credit card statements, my hand trembling slightly. "We need to talk about this." Marcy's eyes widen as she realizes what I'm holding, a flicker of panic crossing her features. She quickly composes herself, plastering a fake smile on her face. "I don't know what you're talking about, sis. Those must be your statements." I shake my head, anger bubbling up inside me. "Don't lie to me, Marcy. I know you've been using my credit to finance your little shopping adventures." The room falls silent, the tension palpable. Our relatives exchange uncomfortable glances, sensing the storm that's about to break. "I have no idea what you're talking about," Marcy insists, her voice dripping with false innocence. "You must be mistaken." I can't contain my fury any longer. "Mistaken? You've been racking up thousands of dollars in charges on my credit cards, Marcy. Designer clothes, expensive jewelry, lavish vacations, all on my dime." Marcy's facade cracks, her true colors shining through. "Oh, come on, Tessa. It's not like you can't afford it. You're the big shot with the fancy job, remember?" Her words are like a slap in the face, the entitlement and lack of remorse behind them stunning me into silence for a moment. But I quickly recover, my resolve hardening. "That's not the point, Marcy. You had no right to use my credit without my permission. It's fraud, plain and simple." She scoffs, rolling her eyes. "Fraud? Don't be so dramatic, sis. It's just a little shopping. No big deal." I can feel the eyes of our relatives on us, the weight of their judgment heavy in the air, but I refuse to back down, to let Marcy's manipulations go unchallenged any longer. "It is a big deal, Marcy. You've been taking advantage of me for years, using me as your personal piggy bank. Well, guess what? I'm done. I'm done enabling your reckless behavior, done cleaning up your messes." Marcy's eyes flash with anger, her true nature finally exposed for all to see. "You're just jealous, Tessa. Jealous that I know how to live life to the fullest while you're stuck in your boring little world." I shake my head, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. "You call this living life to the fullest? Stealing from your own sister, manipulating our parents, leaving a trail of destruction in your wake? That's not living, Marcy. That's being a selfish, entitled brat." The room erupts into chaos, our relatives taking sides and voices rising in a cacophony of accusations and defenses. But I tune them out, my focus solely on Marcy. "I'm cutting you off, Marcy. No more access to my credit, no more bailouts from our parents. It's time for you to face the consequences of your actions." With those words, I turn on my heel and walk out of the room, ignoring the shouts and pleas behind me. I know that this is just the beginning, that Marcy won't go down without a fight, but I'm ready for whatever she throws my way. I'm done being her doormat, done sacrificing my own happiness for her selfish whims. It's time for me to take back control of my life, no matter the cost. In the days following the confrontation at the family gathering, I throw myself into the task of gathering evidence against Marcy. I pore over bank statements, credit card bills, and email trails, piecing together the extent of her deceit. The more I uncover, the more my anger grows. Marcy hasn't just been using my credit for her shopping sprees. She's been actively trying to turn our family against me, spinning tales of my supposed selfishness and lack of family loyalty. I find emails she sent to our parents, painting me as the villain in our story. "Tessa's always been jealous of me," she writes. "She can't stand to see me happy, so she's trying to ruin my life." The lies and manipulation are so blatant, so calculated, that I can hardly believe what I'm reading. How could my own sister be so cruel, so vindictive? But I refuse to let her win. I gather all the evidence I can find, compiling it into a neat little package that I know will be her undoing. As I work, I can't help but think back on all the times Marcy has taken advantage of me over the years. The borrowed money that was never repaid, the favors that were never returned, the snide comments and backhanded compliments that chipped away at my self-esteem. I realize now that I've been too passive, too willing to let her walk all over me in the name of family harmony. But no more. It's time for me to stand up for myself, to demand the respect and fairness that I deserve. I meet with a lawyer, seeking guidance on how to proceed. He looks over the evidence I've gathered, nodding approvingly. "This is solid, Tessa," he says. "We can definitely build a case against your sister for fraud and identity theft." The words fraud and identity theft hit me like a punch to the gut. I never imagined that things would go this far, that my own sister would be facing legal consequences for her actions. But I know that I can't back down now. I have to see this through, no matter how painful it may be. I start to distance myself from my family, knowing that Marcy will stop at nothing to turn them against me. I change my phone number, block their emails, and refuse to engage in any further communication. It's a lonely existence, cut off from the people I once held dear. But I know that it's necessary, that I can't let myself be dragged back into the toxic cycle of enabling and codependency that has defined our relationship for so long. As I prepare for the inevitable legal battle ahead, I can't help but feel a sense of sadness mixed with the anger and betrayal. I never wanted things to come to this, never wanted to have to take such drastic measures against my own flesh and blood. But I know that I'm doing the right thing, not just for myself, but for Marcy as well. She needs to face the consequences of her actions, to learn that she can't go through life taking advantage of others without repercussions. I steel myself for the fight ahead, knowing that it won't be easy. Marcy will undoubtedly try to paint me as the villain, to twist the truth to suit her own selfish narrative. But I have the truth on my side, and I won't let her lies and manipulations win out in the end. I'll present my evidence, lay bare the extent of her deceit, and let the chips fall where they may. As I sit in my temporary refuge, surrounded by the boxes and suitcases that contain the remnants of my former life, I know that I'm on the cusp of something big, a chance to break free from the chains of my past, to forge a new path for myself free from the toxic influence of my family. It won't be easy, but I'm ready for whatever comes my way. I'm done being a victim, done letting others dictate the course of my life. From now on, I'm the one in control, and heaven help anyone who tries to stand in my way. The day of the mediation session arrives, and I find myself sitting across from Marcy and our parents in a sterile conference room. The tension in the air is palpable, the weight of the impending confrontation heavy on my shoulders. Marcy sits there, a smug smile on her face, as if she's already won. Our parents look uncomfortable, shifting in their seats and avoiding eye contact with me. The mediator, a stern-looking woman in her 50s, clears her throat and begins the proceedings. We're here today to address the allegations of fraud and identity theft brought forth by Tessa Johnson against her sister, Marcy Johnson. Marcy scoffs, rolling her eyes. This is ridiculous. Tessa's just being dramatic, as usual. I feel my anger rising, but I take a deep breath and focus on the task at hand. I nod to my lawyer, who begins presenting the evidence we've gathered. He lays out the credit card statements, the email trails, the bank records that show the extent of Marcy's deceit. With each piece of evidence, I see the color drain from Marcy's face, the realization that she's been caught red-handed slowly sinking in. Our parents look stunned, their eyes widening as the truth of Marcy's actions is revealed. They turn to her, disbelief and disappointment etched on their faces. "Marcy, how could you?" Mom asks, her voice trembling. "How could you do this to your own sister?" Marcy's facade cracks, her true nature spilling out in a torrent of anger and resentment. "Oh, spare me the lecture, Mom. You've always favored Tessa, always put her needs above mine. I was just taking what I deserved." Dad shakes his head, his voice heavy with sadness. "We never favored Tessa, Marcy. We love you both equally. But what you've done, it's unforgivable." Marcy laughs, a bitter, hollow sound. "Unforgivable? That's rich, coming from you two. You're the ones who enabled her, who let her play the martyr while I got scraps." I can't hold back any longer. I lean forward, my voice shaking with anger. "Scraps, Marcy? I've been supporting you for years, bailing you out of every mess you've gotten yourself into. And this is how you repay me, by stealing from me, by trying to turn our family against me." Marcy's eyes narrow, her voice dripping with venom. "You've always been the golden child, Tessa, the perfect daughter, the one who could do no wrong. Well, guess what? I'm done living in your shadow." The mediator clears her throat, trying to regain control of the situation. "Miss Johnson, The evidence against you is quite clear. You're facing serious legal consequences for your actions. Marcy's face pales, the reality of her situation finally hitting her. She turns to our parents, desperation in her eyes. Mom, Dad, you have to help me. You can't let her do this to me. But our parents shake their heads, their faces etched with disappointment and resignation. We can't help you anymore, Marcy, Dad says. You've gone too far this time. I feel a twist of satisfaction at Marcy's despair, but it's tempered by the sadness of seeing our family torn apart. I never wanted things to come to this, but I know that I had no choice. The mediator turns to me, her voice sympathetic. Miss Johnson, I understand that this has been a difficult and painful process for you, but you've done the right thing by coming forward and seeking justice. I nod, feeling a sense of relief wash over me. It's not the outcome I hoped for, but it's a start. A chance to break free from the toxic cycle of enabling and codependency that has defined our family for so long. As we leave the conference room, I know that the road ahead won't be easy. Marcy will undoubtedly face legal consequences for her actions, and our family will have to grapple with the fallout of her betrayal. But I also know that I'm ready for whatever comes next. I've found my strength, my voice, and I won't let anyone silence me again. This is my story, my life, and I'm the one who gets to write the ending. In the weeks following the mediation session, I watch as Marcy's world begins to crumble around her. The legal consequences of her actions start to catch up with her, and she's forced to face the reality of the mess she's created. I hear through the grapevine that she's been fired from her job, her employer citing the pending fraud charges as grounds for termination. Her fancy apartment, the one she so gleefully took from me, is now in jeopardy as she struggles to make ends meet. Part of me feels a twisted sense of satisfaction at seeing her suffer, at watching the scales of justice finally tip in my favor. But another part of me, the part that still remembers the little girl who used to climb into my bed during thunderstorms, feels a pang of sadness at how far we've fallen. I try to push those feelings aside, focusing instead on the task of rebuilding my own life. I throw myself into my work, taking on new projects and responsibilities in an effort to distract myself from the pain of my family's betrayal. But even as I try to move forward, Marcy's presence still lingers like a shadow over my life. She starts calling me at all hours of the day and night, her voice slurred and desperate as she begs for my help. Tessa, please, she sobs into the phone. I need money. I'm going to lose everything. I feel a flicker of anger at her audacity, at the fact that she still thinks she can manipulate me into cleaning up her messes. You should have thought of that before you stole from me, Marcy. I'm not your personal ATM anymore. She lashes out then, her voice filled with venom. You're enjoying this, aren't you? Seeing me suffer, watching me lose everything. You've always been jealous of me, always wanted to see me fail. I shake my head, even though she can't see me. I never wanted this, Marcy. I never wanted our family to be torn apart like this. But you made your choices, and now you have to live with the consequences. She hangs up on me then, and I'm left feeling drained and empty. I know that I'm doing the right thing by cutting her off, by refusing to enable her any longer. But it doesn't make it any easier to watch my sister self-destruct. As the weeks turn into months, I start to hear rumors about Marcy's increasingly erratic behavior. She's been spotted drunk in public, getting into fights with strangers, and causing scenes at local bars. I try to distance myself from the gossip, focusing instead on my own healing. I start seeing a therapist, working through the years of trauma and codependency that have defined my relationship with my family. It's a slow and painful process, but gradually I start to feel a sense of hope and possibility that I haven't felt in years. I start to imagine a life beyond the confines of my family's dysfunction, a future where I'm free to be my own person, unencumbered by the weight of their expectations and demands. And then, one day, I receive a letter from Marcy. It's short and to the point, a simple apology for all the pain she's caused me over the years. I know I can't undo what I've done, she writes, but I'm getting help now, and I'm trying to be a better person. I hope that someday you can find it in your heart to forgive me. I read the letter over and over again, feeling a mix of emotions swirling inside me. Part of me wants to crumple it up and throw it away, to dismiss it as just another manipulation tactic. But another part of me, the part that still remembers the bond we once shared, feels a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, there's a chance for us to heal, to find a way forward that doesn't involve the toxic cycles of the past. I know that it won't be easy, that there's no guarantee that Marcy will follow through on her promises. But for the first time in a long time, I allow myself to hope, to believe that change is possible. And as I sit there, holding that letter in my hands, I know that whatever happens next, I'll face it with the strength and resilience that I've fought so hard to earn. 2 years later, I find myself in a new city, thousands of miles away from the memories of my past. I've built a new life for myself here, one that's free from the toxic influence of my family and the constant drama that seemed to follow us wherever we went. My career has taken off in ways I never could have imagined, and I find myself thriving in my new role as a marketing executive. I've made new friends, formed new relationships, and discovered a sense of purpose and fulfillment that I never knew was possible. But even as I embrace this new chapter of my life, I can't help but think about the family I left behind. I wonder how they're doing, if they've managed to find their own paths to healing and redemption. I think about my parents, the ones who enabled Marcy's behavior for so long, and I feel a pang of sadness mixed with frustration. I know that they're not entirely to blame for what happened, that they were victims of Marcy's manipulation just as much as I was. But I also know that they played a role in perpetuating the cycle of dysfunction that nearly destroyed our family. They refused to see the truth about Marcy's behavior, choosing instead to turn a blind eye and make excuses for her actions. I've tried to maintain a relationship with them, sending the occasional email or text message to let them know that I'm doing okay. But there's a distance between us now, a gulf that feels impossible to bridge. I know that they're struggling to adjust to life without Marcy's constant demands and manipulations. I've heard through the grapevine that they've had to downsize their lifestyle, selling off assets and cutting back on expenses in order to stay afloat. Part of me feels a twisted sense of satisfaction at the thought of them finally facing the consequences of their actions. But another part of me, the part that still remembers the love and support they once provided, feels a deep sense of sadness at how far we've fallen. I try to push those feelings aside, focusing instead on the task of building a better future for myself. I've learned the hard way that I can't change the past, that I can't force my family to be something they're not. But what I can do is make sure that I never repeat their mistakes. I can break the cycle of codependency and dysfunction that nearly destroyed us all, and create a new legacy for myself that's based on honesty, integrity, and self-respect. And so I pour myself into my work, into my friendships, into the things that bring me joy and fulfillment. I volunteer at local charities, donate to causes that I believe in, and try to make a positive difference in the world around me. I know that I can't save everyone, that I can't fix all the broken parts of my family's past, but I can be a force for good in my own life and in the lives of those around me. And as for Marcy, the sister who nearly destroyed everything I held dear, I hear through the grapevine that she's started to turn her life around, that she's entered a rehab program, and is working to make amends for her past actions. I don't know if I'll ever be able to forgive her completely, if I'll ever be able to trust her again after everything that's happened. But I do know that I'm proud of her for taking that first step, for finally acknowledging the pain she's caused and working to be a better person. Maybe someday we'll find our way back to each other. Maybe we'll be able to rebuild the bond that was once so strong between us. But for now, I'm content to focus on my own journey, on the path that I've chosen for myself. And as I look out at the city skyline, at the endless possibilities that stretch out before me, I know that I'm exactly where I'm meant to be. I'm free, I'm happy, and I'm finally living life on my own terms. I can't believe you would do this to me, Damien. At my father's funeral, of all places. My voice trembles with rage and disbelief as I confront my husband, his shirt hastily buttoned and lipstick smeared on his collar. Damien's eyes widen in surprise before narrowing with contempt. Don't be so dramatic, Raven. It's not like you were ever enough for me anyway. His words cut deep, reopening wounds I thought had long since scarred over. I think back to when we first met, how his charm and promises of success had blinded me to the red flags. I was just a naive, struggling artist then, desperate for love and validation. I gave up everything for you, I choke out, my vision blurring with unshed tears. My art, my dreams, my self-respect, and for what? A loveless marriage and a lifetime of regret? Damien scoffs, his handsome face twisting into a sneer. You were always so pathetic, Raven, clinging to me like I was your last hope. Well, guess what? I never needed you. I only married you for your father's money and connections. The truth of his words hits me like a punch to the gut. I think of all the years I wasted trying to win his love and approval while he was busy building a life with someone else, someone younger, prettier, more talented. Who is she, Damien? The woman you were just fucking in the coat room? My voice is low and dangerous, barely recognizable to my own ears. He smirks, unashamed. Her name is Sasha. She's everything you're not, Raven. Young, passionate, with a real future in the art world, and she's pregnant with my child. I feel like I might be sick. The betrayal is too much, too raw. I think of my father, cold in his casket just feet away. He never approved of Damien, never thought he was good enough for me, and now with his last breath he was proven right. I want a divorce, I say firmly, my hands shaking as I reach for my phone. I'm done being your doormat, Damien. I'm done letting you destroy me. He laughs, cruel and mocking. You'll never be free of me, Raven. I own you body and soul. Without me, you're nothing. But as I press record on my phone, capturing his vicious words for all the world to hear, I feel a flicker of something long forgotten stir inside me. Something like hope, like defiance. You're wrong, Damien, I say calmly, my tears drying on my cheeks. I may have lost myself for a while, but I'm taking my life back, starting now. And with that, I turn and walk away, my head held high despite the curious stares and whispered gossip of the funeral guests. I don't know what the future holds, but one thing is certain. Raven Callaghan is done being shattered. It's time to pick up the pieces and create a new masterpiece from the ruins of my broken dreams. The sleek lines of Damien's penthouse mock me as I step inside, a cruel reminder of the gilded cage I now call home. The minimalist decor, once so chic and sophisticated, feels cold and sterile, like a museum display of my shattered dreams. Raven, darling, you're back, Damien calls from the living room, his voice dripping with false affection. How was the funeral? I clench my fists, the memory of his betrayal still fresh and stinging. Like you care, I mutter, kicking off my heels and padding into the room. He's sprawled on the leather sofa, a glass of scotch dangling from his fingertips. Of course I care, sweetheart. Alistair was like a father to me. I snort, the irony almost too much to bear. Really? Because last I checked, most people don't skip their father-in-law's funeral to screw their mistress in the coat room. Damien's eyes flash with annoyance, his mask of concern slipping. I thought we were past that little misunderstanding, Raven. I explained everything. Misunderstanding? I echo, my voice rising with incredulity. You called me pathetic, said you only married me for my father's money, and let's not forget the part where you got your barely legal side piece pregnant. He sets down his drink, his jaw clenching. Watch your tone, Raven. You're treading on thin ice. I laugh, the sound harsh and brittle. Or what, Damien? You'll leave me? Ruin my life? Newsflash, asshole, you already have. Just then, the front door slams, announcing the arrival of my least favorite person. Lilith, Damien's teenage daughter from his first marriage, saunters in, her heavily lined eyes narrowing as she spots me. Oh, look, the gold digger's back, she sneers, tossing her designer bag on the counter. Shouldn't you be out spending my inheritance on tacky art supplies? Yes, I bite back a retort, knowing it's useless to engage with her. Lilith has hated me from the moment I moved in, seeing me as a threat to her daddy's fortune and attention. Lilith, please, Damien chides, but there's no real rebuke in his tone. Raven is part of this family now. You need to show her some respect. Respect? Lilith scoffs, her heavily glossed lips curling in disdain. For what? Her amazing ability to spread her legs and trap men into marriage? The words hit me like a slap, the air rushing from my lungs. I turn to Damien, expecting him to defend me, to put his daughter in her place. But he just shrugs, reaching for his drink again. She's not wrong, Raven. You didn't exactly bring much to the table when we met. no money, no connections, just a pretty face and a decent pair of tits. I feel like I might be sick, the room spinning around me. Is this really what he thinks of me? Is this all I am to him, to everyone in this godforsaken family? I'm an artist, I whisper, my voice cracking. I have talent, I have dreams. Lilith rolls her eyes, her laughter cruel and mocking. Dreams? Wake up, Raven. You're nothing but a washed-up wannabe who got lucky, and now that Daddy's gone, your luck's about to run out. She flounces out of the room, her parting words hanging in the air like a noose. I turn to Damien, desperate for some shred of comfort, of reassurance, but he just shakes his head, his expression a mix of pity and contempt. She's right, you know. Without Alistair's money, we're screwed. The gallery's in the red, and your little art projects aren't exactly paying the bills. I feel like I'm suffocating, the walls of this beautiful, terrible apartment closing in on me. Is this really my life now? A loveless marriage, a resentful stepdaughter, a husband who sees me as nothing more than a meal ticket? I think back to the girl I used to be, the one who believed in love and art and the power of her own voice. She seems so far away now, a distant memory of a life I can never reclaim. But as I stand there, something inside me hardens, a small, fierce spark of defiance flickering to life. I may be trapped, I may be broken, but I'm not dead yet. And one way or another, I'm going to make them pay for what they've done to me. 5 years. That's how long it's been since I stood in front of the mirror, a shadow of the woman I used to be. My once vibrant eyes are dull, my skin pale and drawn. The paintbrushes that were once an extension of my soul now lie forgotten, gathering dust in the corner of my studio. I hear the front door slam, followed by the click of high heels on the marble floor. Lilith, now 21 and every bit as vicious as her father, enters the room, her lip curled in a sneer. Still moping around, I see, she taunts, her gaze sweeping over my paint-splattered sweatpants and messy bun. Don't you have anything better to do than wallow in self-pity? I don't bother to respond, knowing it will only fuel her cruelty. Lilith has made it her mission to torment me at every turn, blaming me for the family's financial struggles and her own miserable existence. You know, if you weren't such a useless leech, maybe Daddy wouldn't have to work so hard to keep us afloat, she continues, examining her perfectly manicured nails. But I guess that's what happens when you marry a talentless gold digger. I feel a flicker of anger, but it's quickly extinguished by the weight of my own despair. She's right, after all. What have I contributed to this family, to this life? Nothing but broken dreams and empty promises. The sound of the door opening again jolts me from my thoughts. Damien enters, his suit impeccable and his expression unreadable. He barely spares me a glance as he pours himself a drink, the amber liquid sloshing against the sides of the glass. Lilith, darling, I need to speak with Raven alone, he says, his tone calm but firm. Why don't you go shopping with your friends? Use the black card. Lilith's eyes light up, her earlier venom forgotten in the face of her father's generosity. She snatches the credit card from his outstretched hand and flounces out of the room, leaving me alone with the man I once thought I loved. Your father called, Damien says, taking a sip of his scotch. He wants to see you. I blink, surprised by the mention of Alistair. We haven't spoken in months, not since our last explosive argument about my life choices. What does he want? I ask, my voice hoarse from disuse. Damien shrugs, his gaze still fixed on the view outside the window. He didn't say, but he sounded different, like he was in pain. A flicker of hope ignites in my chest, a tiny ember in the ashes of my dreams. Could this be it? The chance I've been waiting for? The opportunity to escape this gilded hell and start anew. I'll go see him, I say, my resolve strengthening with each word. Maybe he's finally ready to listen, to understand. Damien scoffs, draining the last of his drink. Don't get your hopes up, Raven. Alistair Blackwood is a stubborn old bastard. He'll never change. But as I walk out of the penthouse, my head held high for the first time in years, I feel a sense of purpose, of determination. I may have lost myself along the way, but I'm not going to let them win. I'll see my father, hear what he has to say. And then, one way or another, I'll find a way to break free from this nightmare and reclaim the life I once had. Even if it means burning everything to the ground and starting from scratch. The church is silent, save for the muffled sobs of the mourners and the soft rustling of tissues. I sit in the front pew, my eyes fixed on the polished wooden casket that holds my father's lifeless body. Alistair Blackwood, the man who was supposed to be my rock, my protector, is gone. I feel a hand on my shoulder and turn to see Damien, his face a mask of feigned sympathy. "I'm so sorry for your loss, darling," he murmurs, his voice like silk hiding a dagger. "Your father was a great man." I nod, too numb to speak. I think back to our last conversation, just days before his sudden death. He had hinted at a change in his will, a final act of love and redemption. But now I'll never know what he wanted to say, never have the chance to make things right between us. The service ends, and I stand on shaky legs, accepting condolences from strangers and distant relatives. Damien is nowhere to be seen, and a sinking feeling settles in my gut. I excuse myself and slip out of the church, my heels clicking on the stone steps. I hear voices coming from the coat room, and I freeze, my heart pounding in my chest. It's Damien, and he's not alone. I inch closer, my breath caught in my throat. "God, Sasha, you feel so good," he groans, and I hear the unmistakable sound of flesh on flesh. "I can't wait to leave that frigid bitch and start a new life with you." "What about the money?" a woman's voice asks, breathless and eager. "You said she was going to inherit everything." Damien laughs, the sound cruel and mocking. "Don't worry about that, baby. I have a plan. Once the will is read, I'll contest it, say that Raven manipulated the old man into cutting me out. She's got no proof, no witnesses. It'll be her word against mine." I feel like I might be sick, my stomach churning with rage and disgust. How could I have been so blind, so stupid? I trusted him, loved him, and all along he was plotting to use me and toss me aside. "And what about the kid?" Sasha asks, her voice tinged with worry. "You sure it's yours?" "Of course it's mine," Damien scoffs. "You think I'd let some other man touch what's mine?" "No, this is our ticket to the good life, Sasha, a new start, with Raven's money and my brains. We'll be unstoppable." I can't listen anymore, can't bear to hear another word of their sickening plan. I fumble for my phone, my hands shaking as I hit the record button. I need proof, need to expose Damien for the lying, cheating bastard he is. I step into the coat room, my head held high and my eyes blazing with fury. "Well, well, well," I say, my voice dripping with venom. "What do we have here?" Damien and Sasha spring apart, their faces flushed and their clothing disheveled. "Raven, I can explain," Damien stammers, his eyes wide with panic. "Oh, I think you've explained quite enough," I snarl, holding up my phone. "I heard everything, Damien, every disgusting, despicable word." Sasha blanches, her hand flying to her stomach. "You recorded us?" she whispers, her voice trembling. I nod, a cold smile spreading across my face. "Every single second. And now I'm going to make sure the whole world knows what a pathetic, conniving worm you really are, Damien Callaghan." I turn on my heel and storm out of the room, my heart pounding with a newfound sense of purpose. I may have lost my father, my marriage, and my self-respect, but I'll be damned if I let them take anything else from me. It's time to fight back, to take what's mine and burn the rest to the ground. And I won't stop until Damien and his little whore are nothing but ashes at my feet. The funeral guests stare at me in stunned silence as I march back into the church, my phone clutched in my hand like a smoking gun. Damien follows close behind, his face a mask of panic and fury. "Raven, please, let's talk about this in private," he hisses, reaching for my arm. I yank away from his grasp, my eyes blazing with a fire I thought had long since been extinguished. "Oh, we're going to talk, all right," I say, my voice ringing out clear and strong. "But not in private, not anymore." I turn to face the crowd, my heart pounding in my chest. "Ladies and gentlemen, I have an announcement to make. My husband, Damien Callaghan, is a liar, a cheat, and a thief." Gasps and murmurs ripple through the room, and I see Lilith's face turn pale with shock. Good. Let her see her precious daddy for the snake he really is. "I have proof," I continue, holding up my phone. "Recorded evidence of Damien's infidelity and his plans to contest my father's will and steal my inheritance." Damien lunges for the phone, but I'm too quick for him. I hit play, and his voice fills the church, every damning word echoing off the high ceilings. "You bitch," he snarls when the recording ends, his face twisted with rage. "You think you can destroy me? I made you, Raven. Without me, you're nothing." I laugh, the sound harsh and bitter. "That's where you're wrong, Damien. I'm not nothing. I'm Raven fucking Blackwood, and I'm done being your doormat." I reach into my purse and pull out a thick envelope, tossing it at his feet. I've already spoken to my lawyer. My father changed his will before he died, leaving everything to me. And as for you, you're out on your ass, with nothing but the clothes on your back and the child support payments for your bastard kid. Damien's face drains of color, his mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. You can't do this, he whispers, his voice trembling. I'll fight it. I'll take you for everything you're worth. I smile, cold and cruel. You can try, but I have the law on my side and a team of the best lawyers money can buy. You're finished, Damien. And as for you, Lilith? I turn to face my stepdaughter, my eyes narrowing. Don't even think about coming to me for help. You're just as bad as your father, and I'm done enabling your toxic behavior. You want money, get a job. You want love, earn it. But don't expect anything from me, ever again. Lilith's face crumples, tears streaming down her cheeks. Please, Raven, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it, any of it. I was just angry, jealous. Don't cut me off, I need you. I shake my head, my heart hardening to her crocodile tears. You need a reality check, Lilith, and I'm done being your punching bag. I have my own life to live, my own dreams to chase, and I won't let you or anyone else hold me back anymore. I turn to the stunned crowd, my head held high. Thank you all for coming to pay your respects to my father. But if you'll excuse me, I have a divorce to finalize and a new chapter to begin. I walk out of the church, my steps light and my heart soaring. For the first time in years, I feel alive, powerful, in control of my own destiny. Damien and Lilith can rot in the hell they've created for themselves. I have a legacy to claim and a life to rebuild, one brushstroke at a time, and nothing and no one is going to stand in my way. The gallery is buzzing with activity, the white walls lined with paintings that seem to vibrate with energy and emotion. I stand in the center of the room, a glass of champagne in my hand and a smile on my face. This is my moment, my triumph, and I'm going to savor every second of it. I see Damien across the room, his face haggard and his suit hanging off his frame. He looks like a man who's lost everything, and in a way, he has. I made sure of that. I saunter over to him, my heels clicking on the polished concrete floor. Damien, darling, so glad you could make it, I purr, my voice dripping with false sweetness. I know how busy you must be, what with the job hunt and all. He glares at me, his eyes bloodshot and his jaw clenched. You think you've won, don't you? He growls, his voice low and menacing. You think you can just destroy my life and walk away unscathed? I laugh, the sound bright and carefree. Oh, Damien, I don't think I've won. I know I have, and as for walking away unscathed, I'm not the one who's been blacklisted from every gallery in the city, am I? His face twists with rage, and for a moment I think he might actually hit me. But then a voice cuts through the tension, smooth and confident. Raven, darling, there you are. I've been looking all over for you. I turn to see Marcus, my new business partner and the owner of the most prestigious gallery in town. He's tall and handsome, with salt and pepper hair and a smile that could charm the pants off a nun. Marcus, so sorry to keep you waiting, I say, taking his arm and shooting Damien a triumphant look. I was just catching up with an old friend. Damien's eyes narrow, his fists clenching at his sides. Friend? Is that what you call the man who ruined your life? Marcus raises an eyebrow, his gaze flicking between us. Ruined her life? From where I'm standing, it looks like Raven's doing just fine. Better than fine, actually. Her show is a sensation, and the critics are calling her the next big thing in the art world. I smile, leaning into Marcus's side. What can I say? I had a lot of inspiration to draw from. Pain, betrayal, the depths of human cruelty. It's all there on the canvas for everyone to see. Damien scoffs, his face twitched with disgust. You're pathetic, Raven. Using our marriage, our private life, as fodder for your little art projects. Don't you have any shame? I step forward, my eyes blazing with fury. Shame? You want to talk about shame, Damien? How about the shame of being married to a man who cheated on me, lied to me, and tried to steal my inheritance? The shame of watching my stepdaughter spiral into addiction and despair because of your toxic influence? No, Damien, I have no shame. Not anymore. But you should be drowning in it. He opens his mouth to retort, but I cut him off with a wave of my hand. Save it. I'm done listening to your lies and excuses. I have a show to run and a life to live, and you have a one-way ticket to rock bottom. Enjoy the ride. I turn on my heel and walk away, Marcus at my side. I can feel Damien's eyes boring into my back, but I don't look back. I'm done looking back, done letting my past define me. I'm Raven Blackwood, artist, survivor, and queen of my own fucking destiny. And nothing, and no one, is going to stand in my way. As we mingle with the other guests, I catch sight of Lilith, her face gaunt and her eyes hollow. She's talking to a man in a cheap suit, and I can tell by the way she's fidgeting that she's jonesing for a fix. Part of me wants to go to her, to offer her help and support. But I know that's not what she needs. Not really. What she needs is to hit rock bottom, to face the consequences of her choices, and learn to stand on her own 2 feet. Just like I did. The applause is deafening as I take my final bow, the stage lights hot on my skin and the adrenaline pumping through my veins. I've done it. I've poured my heart and soul onto the canvas, and the world has embraced me with open arms. I step off the stage and into a sea of congratulations and well wishes, my cheeks aching from the constant smiling. But then I see a familiar figure pushing through the crowd, his face haggard and his eyes wild. "Raven, please, I need to talk to you," Damien pleads, his voice hoarse and desperate. "I've lost everything, my job, my home, my reputation. I have nothing left." I stare at him, my heart hardening to his pathetic display. "And whose fault is that, Damien? You brought this on yourself with your lies and your cheating and your greed." He shakes his head, tears streaming down his face. I know. I was wrong, so wrong. But please, Raven, I'm begging you. Forgive me. Give me another chance. I'll do anything, be anything you want me to be." I laugh, the sound harsh and bitter. "Anything I want you to be? I wanted you to be a faithful husband, a loving partner, a decent human being. But you couldn't even manage that, could you?" He falls to his knees, his hands clasped in front of him like a penitent sinner. "I'm sorry, Raven. I'm so sorry. I was weak, selfish, stupid, but I've changed, I swear. I'll prove it to you, every day for the rest of our lives. Just give me one more chance, please." I look down at him, this man who once held my heart in his hands and crushed it without a second thought. And I feel nothing. No love, no hate, no pity. Just a cold, empty void where my feelings for him used to be. "Get up, Damien," I say, my voice flat and emotionless. "You're making a scene." He staggers to his feet, his face a mask of desperation and hope. And does that mean? I shake my head, a small, cruel smile playing at the corners of my mouth. "It means I'm done with you, Damien. Done with your lies, your manipulation, your endless cycle of betrayal and false remorse. I gave you chances, more than you ever deserved, and you threw them all away like the selfish, spineless worm you are." His face crumples, his shoulders sagging in defeat. "Raven, please." I hold up a hand, cutting him off mid-sentence. "No more, Damien. No more pleading. No more promises. No more second chances. You're dead to me, do you understand? Dead and buried, just like the love I once had for you." I turn to walk away, but he grabs my arm, his fingers digging into my skin. "You can't do this, Raven. You need me, just like I need you. We're meant to be together. Can't you see that?" I yank my arm out of his grasp, my eyes flashing with fury. The only thing I see is a pathetic, delusional man who can't accept that his time is up. "You had your chance, Damien. Multiple chances, and you blew them all. Now it's time to face the consequences of your actions." I walk away, my head held high and my heart light. I can hear him calling after me, his voice growing more and more desperate with each step I take. But I don't look back, don't falter in my stride. I'm done being a victim, done being a pawn in someone else's game. I'm the master of my own fate now, the captain of my own ship. And I'm sailing towards a future that's bright and bold and full of endless possibilities. As I step out into the cool night air, I feel a sense of peace wash over me. I've faced my demons, confronted my past, and emerged stronger and wiser for it. I'm ready for whatever comes next, whatever challenges and triumphs lie ahead. Because I know that no matter what, I'll face them head on, with courage and grace and an unshakable belief in myself. I am Raven Blackwood, and I am unstoppable. The sun streams through the floor-to-ceiling windows of my new penthouse, casting a warm glow over the sleek, modern furniture and the vibrant paintings that adorn the walls. I stand on the balcony, a cup of coffee in my hand, and gaze out at the city skyline, a sense of peace and contentment washing over me. It's been 6 months since I walked away from Damien and Lilith, 6 months since I took back control of my life and my destiny. And in that time, I've accomplished more than I ever thought possible. My art has taken the world by storm, with collectors and critics alike hailing me as a visionary, a force to be reckoned with. I've sold pieces to museums and galleries around the globe, and my bank account has never looked healthier. But it's not just about the money or the fame. It's about the sense of purpose, the feeling of fulfillment that comes from knowing I'm making a difference in the world. I've started a foundation using my wealth and influence to support young artists from disadvantaged backgrounds. I mentor them, guide them, help them navigate the treacherous waters of the art world. And every time I see one of them succeed, every time I watch them take the stage and bask in the applause, I feel a rush of pride and joy that's unlike anything I've ever experienced. But even as I revel in my newfound success, I can't help but feel a twinge of emptiness, a sense that something is missing. And I know exactly what, or rather who, it is. Lilith. I haven't spoken to her since that fateful night at the gallery, haven't seen her since she stumbled out of the building, high and desperate and lost. But I've kept tabs on her, watched from afar as she spiraled deeper and deeper into addiction and despair. Part of me wants to reach out, to offer her the same support and guidance I give to my young protégés. But another part of me, the part that still bears the scars of her cruelty and betrayal, hesitates. And then, one day, I receive a letter. It's from Lilith, written from a rehab facility in Arizona. She tells me she's sorry, that she's been working on herself, trying to make amends for all the pain she's caused. She asks for my forgiveness, my help in rebuilding her life. And as I read her words, I feel a stirring in my heart, a glimmer of hope that maybe, just maybe, there's still a chance for redemption. I write back, cautiously at first, then with growing warmth and affection. We exchange letters, then phone calls, then visits. And slowly but surely I watch as Lilith transforms before my eyes, shedding the layers of anger and bitterness and emerging as a new woman, strong and resilient and full of promise. Together we work to build a new life for her, one based on honesty and trust and mutual respect. I help her find a job, a place to live, a network of supportive friends and mentors. And as I watch her flourish, I feel a sense of pride and accomplishment that rivals even my greatest artistic triumphs. But even as Lilith and I mend our broken relationship, I know that there's one loose end left to tie up. One final piece of the puzzle that needs to fall into place. Damien. I've avoided him for months, refusing his calls and emails and desperate pleas for forgiveness. But I know that I can't run forever, can't hide from the truth of what he did and who he is, and so I agree to meet with him, one last time. We sit across from each other in a quiet coffee shop, two strangers who once shared a life and a love. He looks older, thinner, his eyes haunted by the weight of his mistakes. And as he speaks, as he pours out his heart and his soul, I feel a flicker of something that might be pity, might be understanding, but I also feel a sense of closure, a sense that this chapter of my life is finally coming to an end. And as I walk away from him, as I step out into the bright, bustling streets of the city, I know that I'm ready for whatever comes next. Because I am Raven Blackwood, artist, survivor, and master of my own destiny, and nothing and no one can ever take that away from me. The sun peeks through the curtains, casting a warm glow on the framed photos of my late husband John and our son Michael. It's been 5 years since John passed, and the house feels emptier with each day. I sip my coffee, lost in thought, when a sudden knock at the door startles me. I open it to find Eliza, Michael's ex-wife, standing there with a suitcase. "Marge, I need your help," she pleads, her eyes welling up with tears. I hesitate, remembering the pain she caused Michael during their divorce. But seeing her like this, I can't turn her away. "Come in, Eliza. What's going on?" She steps inside, her designer heels clicking on the hardwood floor. "I lost my job, and I have nowhere else to go. Can I stay with you for a while? Just until I get back on my feet." Something about her story doesn't sit right with me, but I nod. "Of course, your family. You can stay in the guest room." Eliza hugs me, her expensive perfume overwhelming my senses. "Thank you, Marge. You're a lifesaver." As she settles in, I can't shake the feeling that there's more to her story. She spends hours on the phone, speaking in hushed tones, and leaves the house at odd hours. When I question her, she brushes me off, saying she's job hunting. Days turn into weeks, and Eliza shows no signs of leaving. I notice new designer clothes in her closet and expensive jewelry on her dresser. How can she afford these things without a job? One evening I confront her. Eliza, I thought you were struggling financially, but I see you buying all these expensive things. What's really going on? She laughs, a harsh sound that sends a chill down my spine. Oh, Marge, you're so naive. I have my ways of getting what I want. I stand my ground, my voice firm. I won't have any illegal activities under my roof, Eliza. You need to leave. Her eyes narrow and she steps closer, her voice low and threatening. You can't kick me out, Marge. I'm family, and if you try, I'll make your life a living hell. Fear grips my heart, but I refuse to let her see it. Get out of my house, Eliza. Now. She grabs her purse and storms out, slamming the door behind her. I sink into a chair, my hands shaking. What have I gotten myself into? That night I lay awake, my mind racing. I know Eliza won't give up easily. She's always been manipulative, even when she was married to Michael. I need to find a way to protect myself and my home. I think back to John's old police connections. Maybe they can help me gather evidence against Eliza without putting myself in danger. I make a mental note to reach out to his former partner, Dan, in the morning. As the sun rises, I feel a renewed sense of determination. I won't let Eliza destroy the peace I've worked so hard to build. I'll fight back, no matter what it takes. She may think she can control me, but she has no idea who she's dealing with. I am Marge Thompson, and I will not be intimidated in my own home. Over the next few weeks, Eliza makes herself at home in my house. She sleeps till noon, leaves her dirty dishes in the sink, and expects me to clean up after her. I bite my tongue, trying to keep the peace, but my patience is wearing thin. One afternoon, I come home from the grocery store to find Eliza lounging on the couch, surrounded by shopping bags from expensive boutiques. She barely acknowledges me as I put away the groceries. Eliza, I thought you said you were struggling financially, I say, trying to keep my voice calm. How can you afford all these new clothes? She rolls her eyes. Don't worry about it, Marge. I have my ways. I frown, a sense of unease growing in the pit of my stomach. What do you mean, your ways? Are you doing something illegal? Eliza sits up, her eyes narrowing. You know, for someone who's supposed to be helping me, you sure ask a lot of questions. Maybe you should mind your own business. I feel my anger rising, but I take a deep breath. This is my house, Eliza, and as long as you're living under my roof, it is my business. She stands up, grabbing her purse. Fine. If you're going to be like that, I'll just leave. I watch as she storms out of the house, slamming the door behind her. Part of me feels relieved, but I know this isn't the end. Eliza's not the type to give up easily. Later that evening, I'm washing dishes when I hear a knock at the door. I open it to find my neighbor, Mrs. Johnson, standing on the porch with a worried expression on her face. Marge, I hate to bother you, but I thought you should know, she says, her voice low. I've seen some strange people coming and going from your house late at night, and I've heard loud arguments too. Is everything okay? My heart sinks. I had no idea Eliza was causing trouble with the neighbors. I'm so sorry, Mrs. Johnson. My daughter-in-law has been staying with me, and we've had some disagreements. I'll talk to her and make sure it doesn't happen again. Mrs. Johnson nods, but I can see the concern in her eyes. Just be careful, Marge. I don't want to see you get hurt. I thank her and close the door, my mind racing. I need to find out what Eliza's up to before she drags me into something I can't get out of. The next morning, I wake up early and start searching Eliza's room. I know it's a violation of her privacy, but I can't shake the feeling that she's hiding something. As I rummage through her drawers, I find a stack of credit card statements with my name on them. My heart stops as I realize she's been using my identity to open new accounts and rack up debt. I confront her as soon as she walks in the door. How could you do this to me, Eliza? I trusted you and you betrayed me. She laughs, a cruel sound that sends shivers down my spine. Oh, please. You were so easy to fool. A little sob story, and you let me right in. You're pathetic, Marge. I feel my anger boiling over. Get out of my house, Eliza. I won't let you ruin my life like this. She smirks, crossing her arms. And what are you going to do about it? Call the cops? I'll just tell them you gave me permission to use your credit cards. It's your word against mine. I realize with a sinking feeling that she's right. She's backed me into a corner, and I don't know how to get out. But one thing's for sure. I won't let her win. I'll find a way to stop her, no matter what it takes. The situation with Eliza is getting out of hand. More neighbors have come to me, complaining about the noise and the suspicious characters hanging around my house at all hours of the night. I'm starting to feel like a prisoner in my own home. I've tried talking to Eliza, but she just brushes me off or gets defensive. I'm not doing anything wrong, she insists, her eyes flashing with anger. You're just being paranoid. But I know better. I've seen the evidence of her lies and deceit scattered throughout the house. Credit card statements, strange packages, and cash hidden in her room. I can't ignore it any longer. One evening, I decide to confront her once and for all. I wait until she comes home, stumbling through the door with a group of rough-looking men. The stench of alcohol and cigarettes fills the air. Eliza, we need to talk, I say, my voice shaking with a mix of fear and anger. She rolls her eyes. Not now, Marge, I'm busy. I stand my ground. No, we're doing this now. I know what you've been up to, and it needs to stop. The lies, the stealing, the illegal activities, I won't have it in my house. Eliza's face twists into a sneer. You don't know anything, you old hag. You're just jealous because I'm living my life while you're stuck in this boring, empty house. Her words cut deep, but I refuse to let her see how much they hurt. This is your last chance, Eliza. Either you clean up your act, or you get out. I won't let you destroy everything I've built. She laughs, a harsh, grating sound. You can't kick me out. I have nowhere else to go. And if you try, I'll make sure everyone knows what a horrible person you are. I'll tell them how you mistreated me, how you're just a bitter old woman who can't stand to see anyone else happy. I feel my anger rising, but I force myself to stay calm. I'm not afraid of you, Eliza. I've dealt with worse than you in my life, and I won't let you bully me in my own home. She steps closer, her face inches from mine. We'll see about that. You have no idea what I'm capable of. With that, she turns and storms out of the room, leaving me shaking with rage and fear. I know I can't let her win, but I'm not sure how to stop her. The next day, I find my tires slashed and my mailbox smashed. I have no proof it was Eliza, but I know in my gut that she's responsible. She's trying to intimidate me, to make me back down. But I won't give in. I've faced tougher challenges in my life, and I've always come out stronger. I start documenting everything, keeping a record of Eliza's actions and the damage she's causing. I know I'll need evidence if I want to get her out of my life for good. Late one night, I hear Eliza arguing with someone on the phone. She's yelling, her voice filled with anger and frustration. I creep closer, trying to make out what she's saying. I don't care what it takes, she hisses. I want that money, and I want it now. And if you don't get it for me, I'll make sure you regret it. My heart races as I realize the extent of her crimes. She's not just stealing from me. She's involved in something much bigger and more dangerous. I know I can't handle this on my own anymore. I need help, and I need it fast. With a heavy heart, I pick up the phone and dial the number of an old friend, someone I know I can trust. It's time to take action, before it's too late. I wait anxiously for Dan, my late husband's former partner, to arrive. When I hear the knock on the door, I rush to answer it, relief washing over me as I see his familiar face. Marge, what's going on? He asks, concern etched in his features. You sounded upset on the phone. I usher him inside, glancing around to make sure Eliza isn't home. It's my daughter-in-law, Eliza. She's been staying with me, and I think she's involved in something illegal. Dan's eyes narrow. What makes you say that? I take a deep breath and begin to explain everything. The late-night visitors, the overheard phone conversations, the evidence of theft and fraud. Dan listens intently, his face growing more serious with each revelation. Marge, this is serious, he says when I finish. If what you're saying is true, Eliza could be looking at some heavy charges. We need to gather more evidence and build a solid case against her. I nod, feeling a mix of relief and apprehension. I'm scared, Dan. She's made threats against me, and I don't know what she's capable of. He places a reassuring hand on my shoulder. Don't worry, Marge. I won't let anything happen to you. We'll get to the bottom of this, I promise. Just then, the front door slams open, and Eliza storms in, her face twisted with rage. What the hell is going on here? She demands, her eyes darting between me and Dan. I stand up, trying to keep my voice steady. Eliza, this is Dan. He's here to help me deal with the situation you've gotten us into. She scoffs, rolling her eyes. I don't need any help, especially not from some washed-up ex-cop. This is none of your business, so why don't you both just stay out of it? Dan steps forward, his voice calm but firm. I'm afraid it is our business, Eliza. Marge has evidence of your illegal activities, and we can't just ignore that. It's time to come clean and face the consequences of your actions. Eliza's face turns red, and she clenches her fists. You have no idea what you're talking about. I'm not doing anything wrong, and you can't prove otherwise. I shake my head, feeling a surge of anger. Stop lying, Eliza. I know about the stolen credit cards, the fraudulent charges, the shady deals. It all ends now. She takes a step towards me, her eyes blazing with fury. You think you can just kick me out and ruin my life? I won't let that happen. I'll make you pay for this, Marge. You'll regret ever crossing me. Dan moves between us, his hand on his hip where I know he keeps his gun. That's enough, Eliza. I won't let you threaten Marge any longer. You have two choices. Either you leave now and never come back, or we call the police and let them handle it. For a moment, Eliza looks like she might lunge at him, her face contorted with rage. But then she seems to think better of it, taking a step back and grabbing her purse. Fine, I'll go. But this isn't over, Marge. You'll see. You can't get rid of me that easily. With that, she storms out of the house, slamming the door behind her. I collapse onto the couch, my hands shaking with adrenaline and fear. Dan sits down beside me, his voice gentle. You did the right thing, Marge. I know it wasn't easy, but you stood up for yourself and for what's right. We'll make sure Eliza pays for what she's done. I nod, feeling a glimmer of hope amidst the chaos. Thank you, Dan. I couldn't have done this without you. He smiles, patting my hand. That's what friends are for, Marge. We'll get through this together, no matter what. The next few days are tense, with no sign of Eliza. I can't help but feel like the calm before the storm, knowing that she's out there somewhere, plotting her next move. I try to go about my daily routine, but I'm constantly on edge, jumping at every noise and shadow. Dan checks in on me regularly, offering his support and reassurance, but even his presence can't fully ease my fears. Late one night, I'm startled awake by the sound of shattering glass. I bolt up in bed, my heart pounding in my chest. I grab the baseball bat I've started keeping by my bedside and creep down the stairs, my hands shaking. As I round the corner into the living room, I see a figure standing by the broken window, silhouetted against the moonlight. I flip on the light switch, and my blood runs cold as I recognize Eliza's face, twisted with rage. What are you doing here? I demand, my voice trembling. I thought I made it clear that you're not welcome in my home anymore. She laughs, a harsh, grating sound that sends shivers down my spine. You really thought you could get rid of me that easily? I told you, Marge, you can't win against me. I always get what I want, one way or another. I grip the baseball bat tighter, trying to steady my nerves. I'm not afraid of you, Eliza. I won't let you intimidate me anymore. She takes a step towards me, her eyes glinting with malice. Oh, but you should be afraid, Marge. You have no idea what I'm capable of. I've ruined people's lives before, and I won't hesitate to do it again. I feel a surge of anger, fueled by the months of fear and frustration. I won't let you destroy my life, Eliza. I've worked too hard to build it, and I won't let you take it away from me. She lunges at me, her hands outstretched like claws. I swing the bat, feeling it connect with her shoulder with a sickening thud. She cries out in pain, stumbling backwards. You bitch, she screams, clutching her arm. You'll pay for that. I stand my ground, holding the bat in front of me like a shield. No, Eliza, you'll pay for what you've done. I've given you every chance to change, to make things right, but you've thrown it all away. Now you'll face the consequences of your actions. She glares at me, her eyes filled with hatred. This isn't over, Marge. I'll make you regret the day you ever crossed me. With that, she turns and flees out the broken window, disappearing into the night. I sink to the floor, my legs giving out beneath me as the adrenaline fades. I know that this is only the beginning, that Eliza won't give up until she's had her revenge. But I also know that I'm not alone in this fight. I have Dan, and the evidence we've gathered, and the strength of my own convictions. I pick up the phone and dial Dan's number, my hands still shaking. She was here, I say when he answers, my voice hoarse with emotion. Eliza broke into my house. I think it's time to take this to the police. Dan arrives within minutes, his face grim as he surveys the damage. You did the right thing, Marge. We have enough evidence to put Eliza away for a long time. She won't be able to hurt you anymore. I nod, feeling a mix of relief and sadness. I never wanted things to come to this, but I know that I can't let Eliza's toxicity poison my life any longer. As the police arrive and begin taking statements, I feel a sense of clarity wash over me. I know that the road ahead won't be easy, but I also know that I'm ready to face whatever challenges come my way. I am Marge Thompson, and I will not be broken. In the days following Eliza's violent outburst, I find myself constantly looking over my shoulder, waiting for her to strike again. But as the weeks pass with no sign of her, I begin to wonder if perhaps she's finally given up. Still, I know better than to let my guard down completely. I meet with Dan regularly, discussing our plans to gather evidence against Eliza and bring her to justice. I've called in some favors with my old contacts at the police department, Dan tells me over coffee one morning. They're willing to help us set up surveillance and track Eliza's movements. I nod, feeling a mix of relief and apprehension. I just want this to be over, Dan. I'm tired of living in fear, always wondering when she's going to strike next. He reaches across the table and takes my hand, his eyes filled with understanding. I know, Marge, but we're going to make sure she pays for what she's done. You're not alone in this. I smile, feeling a surge of gratitude for his unwavering support. I don't know what I would do without you, Dan. You've been my rock through all of this. He grins, a mischievous glint in his eye. Well, what are friends for if not to help take down evil daughter-in-laws? We both laugh, the tension of the past few weeks momentarily lifted. It feels good to have a moment of levity amidst the chaos. Over the next few days, Dan and I worked tirelessly to gather evidence against Eliza. We set up hidden cameras around my house, hoping to catch her in the act of stealing or vandalizing. We also reach out to some of her former associates, people she's burned in the past. Many of them are more than willing to provide statements against her, eager for a chance at their own revenge. As the evidence mounts, I begin to feel a sense of hope, a glimmer of light at the end of the tunnel. Maybe, just maybe, we can finally put an end to Eliza's reign of terror. But even as we make progress, I can't shake the feeling that Eliza is still out there, watching and waiting for the right moment to strike. I find myself jumping at every noise, my heart racing at the slightest provocation. One evening, as I'm washing dishes in the kitchen, I hear a sound that makes my blood run cold. It's the creaking of a floorboard, the same one that always squeaks when someone steps on it. I freeze, my hands still submerged in the soapy water. I listen intently, straining to hear any other signs of movement. And then I hear it again, louder this time. Footsteps, slow and deliberate, moving towards the kitchen. I reach for my phone with shaking hands, ready to dial 911. But before I can even unlock the screen, a figure appears in the doorway, a silhouette backlit by the hall light. Hello, Marge. Eliza's voice is cold, dripping with malice. Did you really think you could get away from me that easily? I back away, my heart pounding in my chest. Eliza, please, don't do this. We can talk about this, find a way to resolve things peacefully. She laughs, a harsh, grating sound that sends shivers down my spine. It's too late for that, Marge. You've pushed me too far, and now you're going to pay the price. She takes a step towards me, her eyes glinting with a dangerous light. I glance around frantically, looking for something, anything to use as a weapon. My gaze lands on a heavy cast-iron skillet sitting on the stove. I lunge for it, my fingers closing around the handle just as Eliza reaches for me. I swing with all my might, feeling the satisfying crunch of metal against bone. Eliza cries out in pain, stumbling backwards. You'll regret that, she hisses, clutching her bleeding face. I'll make you suffer for this, Marge. I'll destroy everything you love, everyone you care about. But even as she speaks, I feel a sense of calm wash over me. I know that I'm not alone, that I have Dan and the evidence we've gathered on my side. No, Eliza, I say, my voice steady and strong. You're the one who's going to pay for your crimes. I'm not afraid of you anymore. After the confrontation with Eliza, Dan and I know that we need to act fast. We can't risk her catching wind of our plans and disappearing before we can bring her to justice. We decide to set a trap using my house as bait. I'll pretend to leave for a weekend trip, giving Eliza the perfect opportunity to break in and steal from me once again. But this time, we'll be ready for her. Dan helps me set up hidden cameras throughout the house, connected to a live feed that he can monitor from a nearby location. As I pack my bags and make a show of leaving, I feel a mix of nervousness and excitement. I know that this is a risky plan, but I also know that it's our best chance at catching Eliza red-handed. I drive to a nearby hotel where I'll be staying for the next few days. Dan and I stay in constant communication, keeping each other updated on any developments. For the first day, there's no sign of Eliza. I try to distract myself with books and television, but I can't shake the feeling of anticipation, the sense that something big is about to happen. And then, on the second night, I get the call from Dan. "She's here," he says, his voice tense with excitement. "She just broke in through the back door." I rush to his location, my heart pounding in my chest. When I arrive, he's already got the video feed up on his laptop screen. I watch as Eliza moves through my house, her movements furtive and quick. She rifles through my drawers and cabinets, stuffing jewelry and cash into a backpack. But then, something unexpected happens. Eliza starts talking to herself, muttering under her breath as she goes about her business. At first, I can't make out what she's saying, but as I listen closer, I realize that she's revealing her entire plan, laying out the details of her scheme like a villain in a movie. "Those idiots have no idea what's coming," she says, a smirk on her face. "Once I've drained Marge's accounts and sold off her valuables, I'll disappear without a trace. They'll never be able to find me." I look at Dan, my eyes wide with shock. "Are you getting this?" I whisper, hardly daring to believe our luck. He nods, a grin spreading across his face. Every word, she's just sealed her own fate. We continue to watch as Eliza moves through the house, spilling more and more of her secrets with each passing minute. She brags about the people she's exploited, the lives she's ruined without a second thought. And then, just when I think it can't get any better, Eliza starts talking about her next target. That old lady down the street, the one with the yappy little dog? She's next on my list. I bet she's got a fortune stashed away in that tacky little house of hers. I feel a surge of anger, mixed with a grim sense of satisfaction. Eliza has no idea that she's just given us everything we need to put her away for good. As she finishes up her raid and slips out the back door, Dan is already on the phone with the police. "We've got her," he says, his voice filled with triumph. "We've got all the evidence we need." I sink back in my chair, feeling a rush of relief wash over me. It's finally over. After months of fear and uncertainty, I can finally see a light at the end of the tunnel. I know that there's still a long road ahead, that Eliza will likely fight the charges with everything she's got. But I also know that I'm not alone in this fight, that I have Dan and the law on my side. And for the first time in a long time, I allow myself to feel a glimmer of hope, a sense that maybe, just maybe, everything is going to be okay. The day of Eliza's arrest is a blur of activity. Police swarm my house, taking statements and collecting evidence. I watch as they lead her away in handcuffs, her face twisted with rage and disbelief. "You think this is over?" she screams, straining against the officer's grip. "I'll make you pay for this, Marge. I'll find a way to make you suffer, even if it's the last thing I do." But even as her threats ring in my ears, I feel a sense of calm wash over me. I know that she's powerless now, that the law is on my side. In the days that follow, I work with Dan to secure my home and my finances. We change the locks, install new security systems, and freeze my credit to prevent any further fraud. It's a long and tedious process, but with each step I feel a little bit safer, a little bit more in control of my own life. And then finally, the day of Eliza's trial arrives. I sit in the courtroom, my heart pounding as the evidence is presented piece by damning piece. The surveillance footage from my house is played for the jury, showing Eliza's brazen theft and her unwitting confession. Witness after witness takes the stand, testifying to her cruelty and her callousness, and through it all, Eliza sits stone-faced, her eyes blazing with hatred every time they meet mine. But in the end, the verdict is unanimous. Guilty on all counts, with a sentence that will keep her behind bars for decades to come. As the judge reads out the decision, I feel a rush of emotion wash over me. Relief, certainly, but also a sense of sadness, a realization of all that has been lost. I think of the young woman Eliza once was, the bright and beautiful girl who captured my son's heart. I think of all the pain and suffering she's caused, the lives she's ruined in her relentless pursuit of greed and power. And I know that, in the end, this is the only way it could have gone, the only way to stop her, to protect the people she would have hurt. As I leave the courtroom, Dan by my side, I'm surrounded by a sea of reporters and well-wishers, people I've never met, strangers who have followed my story and rooted for me every step of the way. I'm overwhelmed by their kindness, their support. I've spent so long feeling alone, feeling like I was fighting this battle by myself. But now, I realize that I was never really alone at all. In the weeks that follow, I start to piece my life back together. I reconnect with old friends, I take up new hobbies, I learn to find joy in the simple things again. And through it all, I carry with me the lessons I've learned, the strength I've found within myself. I know now that I am capable of standing up for myself, of fighting for what's right, no matter how hard it may be. One evening, as I sit on my porch with Dan, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and gold, he turns to me with a smile. "You know, Marge, you're one of the bravest people I've ever met," he says, his voice filled with warmth and admiration. I feel a blush creep into my cheeks, a flutter of something like happiness in my chest. "I don't know about that," I say, shaking my head. "I just did what I had to do." But even as I say it, I know that it's more than that. I know that I've found a strength within myself that I never knew I had, a resilience that has carried me through the darkest of times. And as I look out at the world before me, at the beauty and the promise of a new day, I know that I am ready for whatever comes next. Ready to face the future with courage and with hope, knowing that I am not alone, that I am loved and supported by the people who matter most. It's a new beginning, a chance to start fresh and to build a life that is truly my own. And I am ready to embrace it with open arms, ready to see what adventures lie ahead. It was a typical evening in our middle-class neighborhood, but the hushed voices coming from the kitchen were anything but ordinary. As I passed by, the words my parents exchanged made me stop dead in my tracks. "It's just not feasible. With Kale's potential on the line, Rowan will be fine with her aunt." My heart sank as the realization hit me. They were discussing sending me away to live with my aunt while the family moved to further my younger brother's sports career. The sacrifices they were willing to make for Kale, at my expense, stung deeply. But what about my dreams? I wanted to scream, but the words never left my lips. Instead, I retreated to my room, a knot forming in my throat as I fought back tears of betrayal. The following days were a blur as my parents made the necessary arrangements. Their decision was final, and my protests fell on deaf ears. Kale's potential was their sole focus, leaving no room for my aspirations or desires. Within a week, I found myself in my aunt's modest apartment, surrounded by unfamiliar walls and a sense of displacement. While Aunt Marla tried her best to make me feel welcome, the ache of being cast aside lingered. As the weeks passed, the neglect I felt only intensified. Conversations were dominated by Kale's achievements, with Aunt Marla's dismissive comments like, "Just focus on your school, dear. Let's leave the spotlight for Kale." My talents and passions seemed to fade into insignificance, overshadowed by the glory bestowed upon my brother. But a tiny spark within me refused to be extinguished. It was during my school's literary club meetings that I found solace in the written word. The rhythmic flow of sentences and the power of storytelling ignited a fire within me, a fire that would soon blaze into an inferno of defiance. The modest apartment felt suffocating, a constant reminder of my diminished standing within the family. Even here, under Aunt Marla's roof, the shadow of Kale's success loomed large, obscuring any chance for me to shine. "Did you hear about Kale's latest tournament win?" Aunt Marla would gush, her eyes sparkling with pride as she recounted every detail. "He's on track to become a true champion." I forced a smile, swallowing the bitter resentment that threatened to spill out. It seemed no matter where I went, my brother's accomplishments overshadowed my own existence. School offered a temporary respite, a place where I could escape the constant comparisons and find solace in the written word. The literary club became my sanctuary, a haven where my talents were nurtured and celebrated. Mrs. Wilkins, the club's advisor, saw something in me that even my own family had overlooked. "Your writing has such depth and emotion," she would say, her gentle encouragement fueling my passion. As the weeks turned into months, my skills flourished, and I found myself pouring my heart and soul into every piece I crafted. The lines between fiction and reality blurred as I wove tales of neglect and resentment, channeling the turmoil that had become my constant companion. "Rowan, this is exceptional work," Mrs. Wilkins beamed one day, holding up a script I had written. "Have you considered submitting it to the state competition?" I hesitated, the familiar doubts creeping in. Would my family even care if I succeeded? Or would they simply brush it aside, as they had done countless times before? But something within me stirred, a burning desire to prove my worth, to step out from Cale's overwhelming shadow and claim my own spotlight. "I'll do it," I declared, my voice trembling with a mixture of fear and determination. The weeks leading up to the competition were a blur of late nights and frantic revisions. I poured every ounce of my being into that script, infusing it with the raw emotions that had festered for far too long. When the results were announced, and my name echoed through the auditorium as the winner, I should have felt elated. But the hollow silence that greeted me upon returning home was deafening. "That's nice," Aunt Marla offered half-heartedly. "Anyway, did you hear Cale is now ranked statewide?" That was the final straw. Years of bottled-up frustration and resentment erupted, igniting a fire within me that could no longer be contained. With trembling fingers I created a new blog, pouring my heart and soul into every word. This would be my voice, my platform to expose the injustice of parental favoritism that had plagued my life. Little did I know, the spark I had ignited would soon become an inferno, one that would consume everything in its path, and change the course of my life forever. In the weeks that followed my state competition victory, the euphoria of accomplishment slowly faded, replaced by a familiar ache of neglect. As the accolades trickled in, my family's indifference was deafening. "Congratulations on your win," Aunt Marla offered half-heartedly during one of our rare interactions. "It's just too bad it couldn't be a real sport like Cale's." Her words stung like a slap across the face, magnifying the sense of injustice that had been simmering within me. Why was my passion for writing seen as inferior, while Cale's athletic pursuits were placed on a pedestal? The blog, my secret outlet for venting my frustrations, became a beacon of solace. With each entry, I poured out the raw emotions that had been bottled up for far too long, exposing the harsh realities of parental favoritism. Today, my family proved once again that my achievements are nothing more than a footnote in the grand narrative of my brother's success, I wrote, my fingers furiously tapping away at the keyboard. Little did I know, my words were striking a chord with readers far beyond the confines of my small world. Comments flooded in, each one a validation of the pain I had endured. "This speaks volumes about forgotten kids. I can relate to the feelings of neglect so deeply. Keep writing. Your voice is being heard." With each message of support, a newfound sense of purpose ignited within me. I was no longer just venting my personal grievances. I was giving voice to a silent struggle shared by countless others. It was then that the unexpected happened, an email from a publisher expressing interest in turning my blog into a book. They saw the raw, unfiltered emotion in my words and believed my story needed to be shared on a larger scale. For a fleeting moment, I hesitated. Would putting my family's dysfunction on public display only further alienate me from them? But the allure of finally being seen, of having my voice amplified, proved too strong to resist. Without seeking approval or even mentioning it to my relatives, I accepted the publisher's offer. This was my chance to break free from the shadows that had suffocated me for far too long. The following months were a whirlwind of interviews, revisions, and countless sleepless nights spent pouring my soul onto the pages. Each chapter was a cathartic release, a purging of the pain and resentment that had festered for years. Finally, the day of the book launch arrived, and I found myself surrounded by strangers who had become kindred spirits through the shared experience of my words. As I clutched the freshly printed copy, a sense of pride and accomplishment washed over me, a feeling I had craved for so long. But the euphoria was short-lived. Within days, News of my book's controversial subject matter had spread like wildfire, igniting a firestorm of backlash from the very people it exposed. How could you air our dirty laundry like that? Aunt Marla's voice crackled through the phone, laced with a mixture of anger and disbelief. It was then that I realized there was no turning back. The consequences of my actions had been unleashed, and the only path forward was through the flames I had ignited myself. The backlash from my family was swift and unrelenting. Aunt Marla's scolding phone call was just the beginning of a firestorm that threatened to consume me entirely. "You've betrayed us all." My mother's shrill voice echoed through the receiver, her words dripping with venom. "How could you put our personal lives on display like that?" I tried to explain, to make them understand the years of neglect and resentment that had fueled my actions, but my pleas fell on deaf ears. They saw only the perceived betrayal, not the pain that had driven me to it. Yet, as the flames of their anger raged, an unexpected force began to rise. A groundswell of support from those who had read my book and found their own stories reflected in its pages. "Thank you for giving a voice to the forgotten ones," read one comment on my blog. "Your courage to speak out is inspiring," another echoed. It was as if a dam had burst, unleashing a torrent of shared experiences and validations from people who had endured similar struggles. The more the backlash from my family intensified, the louder the voices of support became. Suddenly, my once isolated narrative had ignited a movement, a rallying cry for those who had been overlooked and neglected in favor of their siblings' successes. Media outlets began to take notice, eager to amplify the conversation around parental favoritism and its insidious effects. One by one, requests for interviews poured in, each offering a platform for me to share my story on a grander scale. At first, I hesitated, the fear of further alienating my family holding me back. But the echoes of those who had found solace in my words drowned out the doubts, fueling a newfound resolve within me. I accepted the interviews, my voice trembling at first, but growing stronger with each retelling of my experiences. The more I spoke, the more the walls of shame and self-doubt crumbled, replaced by a sense of purpose and validation. "You've given a voice to so many who have suffered in silence," one interviewer remarked, her eyes glistening with empathy. As the media frenzy reached fever pitch, my family's efforts to silence me only fueled the flames further. Their attempts to discredit my story and paint me as a disgruntled, attention-seeking child backfired spectacularly, drawing even more attention to the very issues they sought to bury. It was then that an unexpected opportunity presented itself, a publisher eager to capitalize on the growing interest in my story. They saw the potential in expanding my narrative beyond the confines of a blog, offering me a chance to share my experiences on a national scale. Without hesitation, I accepted their offer, my mind already racing with the possibilities of reaching an even wider audience. This was no longer just about venting my personal grievances. It had become a movement, a clarion call for change. With each interview, each article, and each new reader who found solace in my words, the flames of my rebellion burned brighter, fueled by a newfound sense of purpose and the knowledge that I was making a difference in the lives of countless others. The consequences I had once feared had become the very catalysts for my growth and empowerment. And as the smoke cleared, a new path emerged, one that would lead me toward a future beyond the shadows of my family's betrayal. As the firestorm of publicity surrounding my story raged on, the once quiet confines of Aunt Marla's apartment became a battlefield. Her initial disbelief had given way to outright hostility, fueled by the growing media attention. "How could you do this to our family?" she would snarl, her eyes narrowed with contempt. "You've dragged all of our names through the mud." I tried to reason with her, to explain that my intentions were never to hurt or betray, but merely to shed light on a systemic issue that had plagued my life. But my words fell on deaf ears, drowned out by the echoes of her anger and disappointment. "You've made your bed, Rowan," she spat. "Now you'll have to lie in it." And lie in it I did, as the consequences of my actions began to unfold in ways I could never have anticipated. My family's efforts to discredit me only added fuel to the fire, drawing even more attention to the very issues they sought to bury. "This is the epitome of parental neglect," one commentator remarked during a televised panel discussion. The fact that they're trying to silence her only proves her point. With each passing day, the narrative shifted, transforming me from a disgruntled, attention-seeking child into a symbol of resilience and determination. My voice, once muffled by the weight of familial expectations, had become a rallying cry for those who had endured similar struggles. Invitations to speak at events and conferences poured in, each one offering a platform to amplify my message and connect with others who had found solace in my words. With every public appearance, the flames of my rebellion burned brighter, fueled by the knowledge that I was making a tangible difference in people's lives. Yet, amidst the whirlwind of support and validation, the rift within my own family deepened. Aunt Marla's once welcoming home had become a battleground, with tension and resentment hanging thick in the air. "You've made things so much harder for all of us," she would hiss, her words laced with venom. "Is this what you wanted?" In those moments, I had to remind myself of the countless messages from strangers who had found solace in my story. The parents who had vowed to change their ways, the siblings who had found the courage to speak up. My actions had rippled far beyond the confines of my own experience, touching lives in ways I could never have imagined. And so, I persisted, weathering the storm of familial backlash with a newfound resolve. Each scathing remark, each attempt to discredit me, only fueled my determination to keep pushing forward, to keep amplifying the voices of those who had been silenced for far too long. The consequences I had once feared had become the catalysts for change, propelling me onto a path that would lead me far beyond the shadows of my family's betrayal. And as I stepped into the spotlight, I vowed to wield its power not for personal gain, but as a beacon of hope for those still trapped in the darkness. Just when I thought the storm of familial backlash had reached its peak, a new twist emerged, one that threatened to unravel the fragile sense of purpose I had cultivated. It was a crisp autumn evening when the doorbell rang, shattering the tense silence that had enveloped Aunt Marla's apartment. With a weary sigh, she rose from her chair, her footsteps heavy with resignation. "Rowan, it's for you," she called out, her voice tinged with a mixture of apprehension and curiosity. I braced myself, steeling my nerves for yet another confrontation, another attempt to silence the truth I had so fiercely defended. But nothing could have prepared me for the sight that greeted me at the door. There, standing side by side, were my parents, the very people who had cast me aside in pursuit of my brother's success. Their expressions were a study in contrasts, my mother's face etched with a mixture of shame and defiance, while my father's eyes held a glimmer of what almost seemed like remorse. "Rowan," my mother began, her voice wavering ever so slightly, "we've been thinking a lot, and we want to bring you back home." For a moment I was rendered speechless, the weight of her words hanging heavy in the air. After everything that had transpired, after the public outcry and the bitter divide they had created, they now sought to welcome me back into the fold? Why? I managed to choke out, my eyes narrowing with suspicion. "What's changed?" It was my father who spoke next, his tone carrying a somberness I had never witnessed before. "Cale's been injured," he said, the words seeming to catch in his throat. "His career, his future, it's all in jeopardy now." Suddenly the pieces began to fall into place. Their sudden desire to reconcile wasn't born of genuine remorse or a newfound appreciation for my struggles. It was a calculated attempt to use my newfound platform and public sympathy to bolster their son's faltering prospects. "So that's it then?" I spat, my voice trembling with a mixture of fury and disbelief. "You only want me back because you need me to save Cale's career?" Aunt Marla, who had been silently observing the exchange, finally spoke up. "Rowan, maybe you should hear them out," she urged, her eyes pleading with me to keep an open mind. But I had heard enough. The truth, as ugly as it was, had finally been laid bare, stripping away any lingering illusions about my family's motivations. "No," I said firmly, my resolve hardening with each passing second. "I won't be a pawn in your game any longer." With that, I turned on my heel and retreated back into the apartment, slamming the door behind me. The echoes of my parents' protests faded into the distance, drowned out by the overwhelming sense of validation that coursed through my veins. They had revealed their true colors, confirming what I had suspected all along. Their love and acceptance were conditional, hinging on my willingness to play a supporting role in Cale's narrative. As I paced the confines of the apartment, a newfound determination took root within me. If they thought I would simply capitulate and play along with their charade, they were sorely mistaken. It was time to take a stand, to confront them publicly and expose the depths of their conditional affection. The world had rallied behind my story, my voice, and now I would wield that power to shatter the facade they had so carefully constructed. With trembling fingers, I began to draft a statement, pouring my emotions onto the page with a fervor that betrayed years of pent-up frustration. This would be my moment, my opportunity to reclaim the narrative and reveal the ugly truth that had been obscured for far too long. As the words took shape, a sense of liberation washed over me. I was no longer the forgotten child, relegated to the shadows of my family's ambitions. I was a force to be reckoned with, a voice that would not be silenced, and the world was about to bear witness to my defiance. The air was thick with tension as I stepped into the dimly lit coffee shop, my hands trembling ever so slightly. This was it. The moment I had been both dreading and anticipating, the culmination of years of pent-up frustration and resentment. My parents sat huddled together at a corner table, their faces a mask of apprehension and confusion. They had come at my insistence, summoned to this public venue under the guise of seeking reconciliation. But reconciliation was the furthest thing from my mind. This was my chance to confront them, to strip away the facade of familial devotion they had so carefully constructed, and expose the truth that had been obscured for far too long. As I approached the table, their eyes met mine, a flicker of hope mingled with trepidation. "Rowan," my mother began, her voice strained, "we're so glad you agreed to meet with us." I said nothing, simply taking my seat across from them, my gaze unwavering. The silence stretched on, thick and palpable, as I let the tension build, savoring the power I now held. Finally I spoke, my voice steady and resolute. "Why did you really come back for me?" My father exchanged a puzzled glance with my mother before turning back to me. "We've already told you, sweetheart. We want to bring you home to be a family again." I shook my head slowly, a bitter smile tugging at the corners of my lips. "No, that's not it. You only want me back because of Cale's injury, because you need the public's sympathy to save his career." The words hung in the air like a heavy shroud, their weight suffocating. My parents' expressions shifted, a mixture of shock and anger flickering across their faces. "How dare you accuse us of such a thing?" my mother hissed, her eyes narrowing with fury. "We are your parents, and we only want what's best for you." It was then that I knew I had struck a nerve, exposed the raw truth that they had so desperately tried to conceal. With a deep breath, I pressed on, determined to unravel the tangled web of lies they had woven. "Really?" I challenged, leaning forward in my chair. "Then tell me, if Cale's career hadn't been jeopardized, would you have ever come back for me?" The silence that followed was deafening, a silent admission of the truth we all knew but had refused to acknowledge. My parents shifted uncomfortably, their faces a study in conflicted emotions. Finally, it was my father who spoke, his voice heavy with resignation. "Rowan, you have to understand, your brother's future was our priority. We couldn't let anything stand in the way of his success." There it was, the ugly truth laid bare for all to see. Their love, their acceptance, had always been conditional, a twisted hierarchy where my dreams and aspirations were mere footnotes in the grand narrative of Cale's ascent. "So, that's it then?" I shot back, my voice trembling with a mixture of fury and vindication. "Is it really me you came for, or is it the public sympathy you need for Cale?" The silence that followed was deafening. A silent admission of the truth we all knew but had refused to acknowledge. My parents shifted uncomfortably, their faces a study in conflicted emotions. But I wasn't finished. With a steely resolve, I pressed on, determined to expose the depths of their betrayal to the world. "You see, this is exactly why I wrote that book, why I shared our story," I declared, my voice rising in defiance. "Because for too long, families like ours have operated under the illusion of unconditional love, when in reality, it's all about meeting certain conditions, sacrificing one child's dreams for another's." As the words spilled forth, I could feel the weight of years of resentment and neglect lifting from my shoulders, replaced by a sense of liberation and purpose. Around us, the hushed murmurs of the coffee shop patrons had given way to rapt attention, as if the entire room was holding its collective breath, hanging on my every word. In that moment, I knew I had won. The facade had crumbled, the truth laid bare for all to see. My parents sat before me, their masks stripped away, exposed as the flawed, conditional figures they truly were. And as the world bore witness to my defiance, a newfound sense of strength coursed through my veins. I was no longer the forgotten child, relegated to the shadows of my family's ambitions. I was a force to be reckoned with, a voice that would not be silenced. And this was only the beginning. The air was electric with excitement as I stepped into the bustling bookstore, the familiar scent of freshly printed pages mingling with the chatter of eager fans. This was a moment I had once only dreamed of, a celebration of my story, my journey, and the power of a single voice to ignite a movement. Aunt Marla stood at the front of the crowd, her face beaming with pride, a stark contrast to the indifference she had once shown. By her side were the friends I had made along the way, kindred spirits who had found solace and validation in my words and had rallied to my side as steadfast supporters. "Rowan, we're all so incredibly proud of you," Aunt Marla gushed, enveloping me in a warm embrace. "Who would have thought that your little blog would turn into this?" I smiled, my cheeks flushing with a mixture of humility and triumph. It had been a long, arduous journey, fraught with pain and heartbreak, but also immense growth and self-discovery. As I took my seat at the signing table, the first fan stepped forward, clutching a copy of my book with trembling hands. "Thank you," she whispered, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Your words gave me the courage to speak up about my own struggles." One by one, they came, each with their own story, their own journey that had intersected with mine. A mother who had vowed to change her ways, a sibling who had found the strength to confront long-buried resentments. My words had struck a chord, resonating far beyond the confines of my personal experience. With each signature, each heartfelt exchange, I felt a sense of purpose and validation that transcended any accolade or achievement. This was no longer just about my story. It was about giving a voice to the voiceless, shining a light on the insidious impacts of parental favoritism and conditional love. As the line dwindled and the event drew to a close, Aunt Marla approached me once more, her eyes shining with a newfound understanding and appreciation. "Rowan, I owe you an apology," she began, her voice thick with emotion. "For so long, I was blinded by the idea of supporting Cale's dreams that I failed to see the pain and neglect you were enduring." I opened my mouth to respond, but she held up a hand, silencing me with a gentle shake of her head. "No, let me finish. What you've accomplished here, the lives you've touched, the conversations you've sparked, it's made me realize that true love, true support, isn't about putting one child on a pedestal at the expense of the other. It's about nurturing each unique talent, each individual dream, and creating an environment where everyone feels valued and seen." Her words washed over me like a soothing balm, healing wounds I hadn't even realized were still raw. To have the person who had once epitomized my family's conditional love now embracing the very ideals I had fought so hard to uphold was a victory beyond measure. As I looked around at the smiling faces of my newfound family, the friends, supporters, and kindred spirits who had rallied to my side, I knew that I had found something far more precious than any blood tie could offer. "You've made us all so proud, more than any sport or blog ever could," Aunt Marla continued, her voice thick with emotion. "And I promise, from this day forward, to be the kind of supportive presence you deserved all along." In that moment, I felt a sense of closure, a weight lifting from my shoulders that I hadn't even realized I'd been carrying. The resentment, the anger, the years of neglect, they no longer held the same power over me. As I embraced Aunt Marla, surrounded by the warmth and acceptance of my chosen family, I knew that I had already won. The consequences of my actions, once so feared, had become the catalysts for personal growth and societal change. And as I looked towards the future, I saw endless possibilities, a world where no child would ever have to endure the pain of conditional love, a world where every dream, every talent would be nurtured and celebrated. With a renewed sense of purpose and determination, I vowed to continue amplifying the voices of the overlooked, using my platform to inspire and empower others to stand up and demand the recognition they deserved. This was no longer just my story. It was a movement, a rallying cry for change that would echo far beyond the pages of a book. And as I stepped out into the world, my head held high, I knew that I was no longer the forgotten child, relegated to the shadows of someone else's ambitions. I was a force to be reckoned with, a voice that would not be silenced. And this was only the beginning. I never thought I'd be in this position, standing in our living room, my heart pounding as I confront my husband of 10 years. Trent's voice echoes from the kitchen, his laughter grating on my nerves as he boasts over the phone about his latest financial scheme. "You wouldn't believe how easy it was to pull one over on her," he chuckles. "Aaliyah's so focused on her little part-time job at the library, she has no idea what I've been doing with our money." My blood boils as I listen to him mock my efforts to contribute to our household. I step into the kitchen, my eyes narrowed. "What exactly have you been doing with our money, Trent?" He spins around, his expression shifting from surprise to annoyance. "I've got to go," he mutters into the phone before hanging up. "What's with the interrogation, Aaliyah? I'm just trying to make sure we're set for the future." "By manipulating our finances behind my back?" I counter, my voice rising. "We agreed on a plan, Trent. What happened to saving for our retirement, for our kids' education?" He scoffs, waving his hand dismissively. "Your little library job isn't going to cut it, Aaliyah. I'm the one bringing in the real money here. If you want to be useful, why don't you quit and focus on taking care of the house?" His words cut deep, but I refuse to back down. "I may not make as much as you, but my job matters to me, and I have a right to know what's happening with our finances." Trent steps closer, his face hardening. "You don't need to worry about that. I've got it under control. Just trust me and stay in your lane." I shake my head, anger and betrayal coursing through me. "I can't do that, Trent. Not when you're hiding things from me and making decisions that affect both of us without my input." He throws his hands up in exasperation. "You're being ridiculous, Aaliyah. I'm doing what's best for us, even if you can't see it." "No, you're doing what's best for you," I retort, "and I won't stand for it anymore." Trent's eyes narrow. "What are you saying?" I take a deep breath, my resolve strengthening. "I'm saying that if you can't be honest with me and treat me as an equal partner, then maybe we need to rethink this marriage." He stares at me, his mouth agape. "You can't be serious." "I am," I say firmly. "I won't be manipulated and belittled any longer. If you can't respect me and our agreements, then I'll have to find a way to protect myself and my future." Trent's face reddens, his fists clenching at his sides. "You're making a mistake, Aaliyah. You need me." I meet his gaze, my voice steady. "No, Trent, I need honesty, respect, and a partner who values me. And if you can't give me that, then I'll find my own way forward." With that, I turn and walk out of the kitchen, my heart racing, but my spirit unbroken. I know the road ahead won't be easy, but I refuse to let Trent's betrayal define me. I'll fight for my independence and reclaim the life I deserve, no matter what it takes. The hum of conversation fills the air as I step into my in-laws' backyard, the scent of barbecue wafting by. It's a typical family gathering, but the weight of my confrontation with Trent still lingers heavily on my mind. I spot his sister Marla and make my way over, hoping to find an ally in the midst of this turmoil. "Marla, can I talk to you for a moment?" I ask, my voice low. She turns, her brow furrowing at my serious tone. "Sure, Aaliyah. What's up?" I glance around, ensuring we have some privacy. "It's about Trent. I recently found out he's been hiding things from me, making financial decisions behind my back." Marla's expression shifts, a flicker of discomfort crossing her face. "Oh, I'm sure it's just a misunderstanding, Aaliyah. You know how Trent is, always trying to do what's best for the family." I shake my head, frustration bubbling up inside me. "No, Marla, it's more than that. He's been manipulating our finances, putting our future at risk. I need your support in this." She averts her gaze, fidgeting with her drink. "I don't know, Aaliyah. Trent's mentioned some things about your spending habits. Maybe you two just need to communicate better." My jaw clenches, realization dawning on me. What exactly has Trent been saying about me? Marla hesitates, her discomfort palpable. "He's just concerned, Aaliyah. He says you've been irresponsible with money, that your job at the library isn't contributing enough." Anger surges through me, my voice rising. "That's not true, Marla. I've been nothing but responsible. Trent's the one who's been lying and hiding things. She takes a step back, her eyes widening at my outburst. Calm down, Aaliyah. I'm sure Trent has his reasons. Maybe you're just overreacting. I stare at her in disbelief, the sting of betrayal intensifying. Overreacting? My husband is spreading lies about me to his own family, and you think I'm overreacting? Marla shifts uncomfortably, glancing around at the other family members who are starting to take notice of our heated exchange. Look, Aaliyah, I don't want to get in the middle of this. You and Trent need to work it out yourselves. I laugh bitterly, shaking my head. I came to you for support, Marla. I thought you, of all people, would understand, but I see now that Trent has you all fooled. She opens her mouth to respond, but I hold up my hand, cutting her off. Save it. I don't need your judgment or your excuses for Trent's behavior. I'll handle this on my own. I turn on my heel, ignoring the curious stares from the rest of the family as I make my way back inside the house. My heart pounds in my chest, a mixture of anger and determination coursing through me. I find Trent in the kitchen, laughing with his brother. He looks up as I approach, his smile fading at the sight of my expression. Aaliyah, what's wrong? What's wrong? I echo, my voice trembling with barely contained rage. What's wrong is that you've been lying to your family about me, painting me as some irresponsible spender, while you hide your own financial misdeeds. Trent's face hardens, his eyes narrowing. I don't know what you're talking about, Aaliyah. I've only ever tried to protect you, to do what's best for us. I scoff, my hands curling into fists at my sides. Protect me? By undermining me and spreading lies? No, Trent, you're only protecting yourself and your own selfish interests. He takes a step towards me, his voice lowering. Be careful what you say, Aaliyah. You don't want to make a scene in front of everyone. I meet his gaze, my resolve unwavering. I'm done being careful, Trent. I'm done letting you control the narrative. From now on, I'm taking control of my own life, my own future, and I won't let you or anyone else stand in my way. With that, I brush past him, ignoring his calls for me to come back. I step out into the backyard, my head held high despite the whispers and stares. Let them talk, let them judge. I know the truth, and I won't be silenced any longer. The library has always been my sanctuary, a place where I can escape the chaos of my personal life and find solace among the stacks. But today, as I sit at my desk, my mind is far from the books that surround me. I can't shake the nagging feeling that Trent's deception runs deeper than I initially thought. I pull up our online banking statements, my eyes scanning the transactions. At first glance, everything seems normal, but as I delve deeper, I notice a series of large withdrawals that I don't recognize. My heart sinks as I realize the money has been transferred to an account I've never seen before. With trembling fingers, I dial the bank's customer service number. After a series of automated prompts, I finally reach a representative. Hello, my name is Aaliyah Thompson. I'm calling about some unusual activity on my account. The representative asks for my information and pulls up my account. Miss Thompson, I see a recent transfer to an investment account. Was this not authorized by you? I take a deep breath, trying to steady my voice. No, it wasn't. Can you tell me more about this investment account? There's a pause on the other end of the line. I'm sorry, Miss Thompson, but the account is not in your name. It appears to be a business account opened by a Trent Thompson. My stomach drops, a wave of nausea washing over me. A business account? What business? The representative hesitates. I'm afraid I can't disclose that information, as you're not listed on the account, but I can tell you that a significant sum was recently transferred from your joint account to this business venture. I close my eyes, the pieces falling into place. Trent's secrecy, his dismissal of my concerns, his lies to his family. It all makes sense now. He's been using our money, my money, to fund some secret project behind my back. Anger courses through me, hot and intense. I thank the representative and hang up, my mind racing. I need proof, something tangible to confront Trent with. I can't let him get away with this. I spend the next hour combing through our financial records, printing out statements, and highlighting the suspicious transactions. By the time I'm done, I have a stack of evidence that even Trent can't deny. I'm just gathering my things to leave when a familiar voice cuts through the quiet of the library. Aaliyah, we need to talk. I look up to see Trent standing in the doorway, his expression a mixture of anger and annoyance. I'm busy, Trent. Can't this wait? He strides over to my desk, his eyes narrowing. No, it can't. I just got a call from the bank about you snooping around in our accounts. What the hell are you doing? I stand up, squaring my shoulders. I'm doing what you should have been doing all along, Trent, being honest and transparent about our finances. He scoffs, rolling his eyes. Oh, please, you're just being paranoid. I told you, I have everything under control. I slam the stack of papers down on the desk, the sound echoing through the empty library. Under control? Is that what you call taking out a second mortgage on our home without telling me? Is that what you call funneling our money into some secret business account? Trent's face pales, his mouth falling open. How did you? It doesn't matter how I know, Trent. What matters is that you've been lying to me, betraying my trust, and putting our future at risk. He takes a step back, his expression hardening. You don't understand, Elia. This business venture is going to change everything for us. I'm doing this for you, for our family. I laugh bitterly, shaking my head. No, Trent, you're doing this for yourself, and I won't stand by and watch you destroy everything we've built together. I gather up the papers, stuffing them into my bag. I'm going to find out exactly what you've been up to, Trent, and when I do, there will be consequences. With that, I brush past him, ignoring his calls for me to come back. I've had enough of his lies and manipulations. It's time for me to take control and fight for what's rightfully mine. The coffee shop is bustling with activity as I slide into a booth, my hands wrapped tightly around a steaming mug. Across from me sits my best friend Sarah, her eyes filled with concern as she takes in my haggard appearance. Elia, what's going on? You sounded so upset on the phone. Sarah reaches across the table, squeezing my hand. I take a deep breath, the events of the past few days spilling out in a rush. It's Trent. He's been lying to me, Sarah. He took out a second mortgage on our house without telling me and has been funneling money into some secret business account. Sarah's eyes widen, her mouth falling open. Oh my God, Elia, that's terrible. What are you going to do? I shake my head, feeling overwhelmed. I don't know. I have proof of what he's been doing, but I don't know how to confront him without things getting ugly. Sarah leans forward, her expression determined. You can't let him get away with this, Elia. You need to protect yourself and your assets. I nod, knowing she's right. I've been documenting everything, gathering evidence, but I feel like I need more support, someone who can guide me through this process. Sarah thinks for a moment, then snaps her fingers. I know someone who might be able to help. My cousin went through a nasty divorce last year, and she worked with this amazing financial advisor. Let me give her a call and see if she can recommend someone. Relief washes over me, grateful for Sarah's support. Thank you, Sarah. I don't know what I'd do without you. She smiles, squeezing my hand again. That's what friends are for, Elia. We'll get through this together. A few days later, I find myself sitting in the office of a highly recommended financial advisor, Mr. Henderson. He listens intently as I outline my situation, his expression growing more serious with each revelation. Mrs. Thompson, I must say, your husband's actions are highly concerning. Taking out a second mortgage without your knowledge and investing in a business without your consent is a clear violation of your financial agreement. Mr. Henderson frowns, shaking his head. I nod, my stomach twisting. I know. I just don't know how to confront him without things escalating. Mr. Henderson leans forward, his voice calm but firm. The first step is to secure your own finances. I recommend opening a separate bank account in your name only and transferring a portion of your joint assets into it. This will ensure that you have access to funds should your husband attempt to freeze your accounts. I make a note, my hand trembling slightly. Okay, I can do that. What else? You mentioned that you have evidence of your husband's financial misdeeds. I strongly advise making copies of all relevant documents and storing them in a secure location, such as a safety deposit box. This will be crucial in building a case against him. I nod, feeling a sense of empowerment. I've been doing that. I have statements, receipts, everything. Mr. Henderson smiles, his eyes kind. Good. You're already taking the right steps, Mrs. Thompson. I know this is a difficult situation, but you're not alone. I'll be here to guide you through the process and help you protect your financial future. I leave Mr. Henderson's office feeling a renewed sense of determination. I know the road ahead won't be easy, But with allies like Sarah and Mr. Henderson by my side, I feel ready to face whatever challenges come my way. That evening, as I sit at the kitchen table, surrounded by piles of financial documents, Trent walks in, his eyes narrowing at the sight. "What's all this?" he asks, his voice tight. I look up, meeting his gaze steadily. "This is me taking control of my life, Trent. I know about the second mortgage, the secret business account, and I won't let you destroy our future any longer." Trent's face reddens, his fists clenching at his sides. "You have no idea what you're talking about, Aaliyah. I'm doing what's best for us, even if you can't see it." I stand up, squaring my shoulders. "No, Trent, you're doing what's best for you, and I won't be a part of it anymore." I gather up the documents, brushing past him. "I'm fighting back, Trent, and I won't stop until I've reclaimed what's mine." With that, I walk out of the room, leaving Trent stunned and silent behind me. The battle lines have been drawn, and I'm ready for war. The sun is barely peeking through the curtains as I sit at the kitchen table, a stack of papers and a cup of coffee in front of me. I've been up for hours, going over the evidence I've gathered against Trent. Bank statements, receipts, emails, all painting a damning picture of his deceit and betrayal. I'm jolted from my thoughts by the sound of the front door opening. Trent strolls in, whistling off-key, his face breaking into a smile when he sees me. "Morning, babe. You're up early." I take a deep breath, steeling myself for the confrontation to come. "We need to talk, Trent." His smile falters, his eyes darting to the papers on the table. "What's all this?" I stand up, crossing my arms. "This is evidence, Trent. Evidence of your lies and your financial infidelity." Trent's face hardens, his posture defensive. "I don't know what you're talking about, Aaliyah. I've been nothing but honest with you." I scoff, shaking my head. "Really? Then how do you explain the second mortgage you took out on our house without telling me? Or the secret business account you've been funneling our money into?" He takes a step back, his eyes widening. "How did you—" "It doesn't matter how I know, Trent. What matters is that you've been lying to me, hiding things from me, and I won't stand for it anymore." Trent's expression shifts, his mouth twisting into a sneer. "You don't understand, Aaliyah. I'm doing this for us, for our future. You should be grateful." I laugh bitterly, tears stinging my eyes. "Grateful? For what? For you putting our financial security at risk? For you betraying my trust and treating me like I'm nothing more than an inconvenience?" He takes a step towards me, his voice lowering. "Watch yourself, Aaliyah. You don't want to push me too far." I stand my ground, meeting his gaze head on. "No, Trent. You're the one who's gone too far, and I'm done being your doormat." I gather up the papers, shoving them into a folder. "I've hired a private investigator, Trent, someone who's going to dig into every dirty little secret you've been hiding." Trent's face pales, his hands clenching into fists. "You're making a mistake, Aaliyah. You don't want to go down this road." I brush past him, grabbing my purse. "The only mistake I made was trusting you, but that ends now." I head for the door, my heart pounding in my chest. I'm halfway out when Trent's voice stops me. "You'll regret this, Aaliyah. I promise you that." I turn back, my eyes blazing. "The only thing I regret is wasting so many years on a lying, manipulative bastard like you." With that, I slam the door behind me, the cool morning air hitting my face. I take a deep breath, feeling a sense of liberation wash over me. I know the road ahead won't be easy, but I'm ready to fight for what's mine. Later that day, I find myself in the office of the private investigator I've hired, a no-nonsense woman named Joan. She listens intently as I outline my suspicions, her pen scratching across a notepad. "Based on what you've told me, Mrs. Thompson, it sounds like your husband has been engaging in some serious financial misconduct." Joan looks up, her eyes serious. I nod, my stomach twisting. "I need proof, Joan, something concrete that I can use against him." She nods, leaning back in her chair. "I'll dig into his financials, his business dealings. If there's anything shady going on, I'll find it." I feel a sense of relief wash over me, grateful to have someone on my side. "Thank you, Joan. I don't know what I'd do without your help." She smiles, her eyes kind. "You're doing the right thing, Mrs. Thompson. Standing up for yourself, fighting back. It takes a lot of courage." I leave Joan's office feeling empowered, ready to face whatever challenges come my way. I know that with the evidence we gather, I'll be able to confront Trent and reclaim what's rightfully mine. That night, As I lie in bed, I can't help but feel a sense of anticipation. The wheels are in motion, and soon Trent will have to answer for his actions. I close my eyes, a smile playing at my lips. The game is on, and I'm playing to win. The mediator's office is cold and sterile, the fluorescent lights casting a harsh glare on the conference table. I sit across from Trent, my hands clasped tightly in my lap, a thick folder of evidence resting in front of me. He looks haggard, his usually polished appearance replaced by dark circles and a rumpled suit. The mediator, a stern-looking woman in her 50s, clears her throat. Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, we're here today to discuss the terms of your divorce and the division of assets. I understand that there have been some disputes regarding finances. I nod, my voice steady. That's correct. My husband has been engaging in financial fraud and deceit, hiding assets and taking out loans without my knowledge or consent. Trent scoffs, rolling his eyes. That's ridiculous. I've done nothing wrong. I open the folder, pulling out a stack of documents. I have proof, Trent. Bank statements, emails, receipts, all showing the money you've been funneling into your secret business account. The mediator takes the documents, her eyes scanning the pages. These are serious allegations, Mr. Thompson. Do you have anything to say in your defense? Trent shifts in his seat, his eyes darting around the room. Those documents are taken out of context. I was simply trying to secure our financial future. I laugh bitterly, shaking my head. By lying to me? By putting our home at risk with a second mortgage? No, Trent. You were only looking out for yourself. He leans forward, his face twisting with anger. You have no idea what you're talking about, Aaliyah. You've never understood the sacrifices I've made for this family. I meet his gaze, unflinching. The only thing you've sacrificed is your integrity, Trent, and I won't let you get away with it any longer. The mediator holds up her hand, silencing us both. Mrs. Thompson, you mentioned having evidence gathered by a private investigator. May I see that as well? I nod, pulling out another stack of papers. This is just the tip of the iceberg. My investigator uncovered a pattern of financial misdeeds going back years. Secret investments, shell companies, all designed to hide assets from me. Trent's face pales, his hands clenching into fists. You had no right to dig into my private affairs, Aaliyah. This is a violation of my privacy. I scoff, rolling my eyes. You gave up your right to privacy the moment you started lying to me, Trent. The moment you betrayed our marriage vows. The mediator looks up from the papers, her expression grave. Mr. Thompson, in light of this evidence, I strongly advise you to come clean and agree to a fair division of assets. Continuing to deny wrongdoing will only make matters worse for you in court. Trent's jaw clenches, his eyes flashing with anger. This is all a misunderstanding. I won't be bullied into giving up what's rightfully mine. I lean forward, my voice low and steady. What's rightfully yours? You mean the money you stole from our joint accounts? The home you put at risk with your lies? No, Trent. You've forfeited any claim to those things. The mediator nods, her tone firm. Mrs. Thompson is correct, Mr. Thompson. Based on the evidence presented, you have engaged in serious financial misconduct. If you continue to contest the division of assets, I will have no choice but to recommend that this case proceed to trial, where a judge will likely rule in your wife's favor. Trent's shoulders slump, defeat etched on his face. Fine. What are your terms, Aaliyah? I sit back, a sense of triumph washing over me. I want the house, free and clear. I want a fair division of our savings and investments, and I want you to sign over your interest in the secret business account to me. He nods, his voice barely above a whisper. Okay, you win, Aaliyah. I gather up my papers, standing to leave. No, Trent, we both lose, but at least now the truth is out there, and I can finally start rebuilding my life, free from your lies and deceit. As I walk out of the mediator's office, I feel a weight lift from my shoulders. The battle may be far from over, but for the first time in a long time, I feel a sense of hope. I know that no matter what challenges lie ahead, I have the strength to face them head-on, armed with the truth and the knowledge that I fought for what was right. The courtroom is packed, the air thick with tension as I take my seat at the plaintiff's table. Trent sits across the aisle, his face a mask of barely contained rage. His lawyer, a shark in an expensive suit, leans over to whisper something in his ear. My own attorney, a fierce woman named Valerie, squeezes my hand reassuringly. Don't worry, Aaliyah. We have an airtight case. Trent's lies are about to catch up with him. The judge, a stern-looking man in his 60s, enters the courtroom, and we all rise. He takes his seat, shuffling through the papers on his bench. In the matter of Thompson v. Thompson, we are here today to determine the division of assets and to address the allegations of financial misconduct. Counsel, please proceed with your opening statements. Valerie rises, her voice clear and confident. Your Honor, we will prove that the defendant, Trent Thompson, engaged in a pattern of deceit and financial fraud, hiding assets and taking out loans without the knowledge or consent of his wife, Aaliyah Thompson. We have irrefutable evidence, including bank statements, email records, and testimony from a private investigator that will show the depth of Mr. Thompson's betrayal. Trent's lawyer stands, his voice smooth and oily. Your Honor, my client is a victim of a vindictive wife who will stop at nothing to ruin his reputation. The evidence presented is circumstantial at best and does not prove any wrongdoing on Mr. Thompson's part. The judge nods, his expression unreadable. Very well, let's hear from the witnesses. Over the next several hours, a parade of witnesses take the stand. The private investigator details the complex web of financial transactions Trent used to hide his assets. The bank manager confirms the second mortgage taken out on our home without my knowledge. Even Trent's former business partner testifies to the secret deals and shady investments. Through it all, Trent sits stone-faced, his jaw clenched tight, but as the evidence mounts, I can see the cracks beginning to form in his facade. Finally, it's Trent's turn to take the stand. He swaggers up to the witness box, his arrogance on full display. But as Valerie begins her cross-examination, his confident veneer begins to crumble. Mr. Thompson, can you explain why you took out a second mortgage on your family home without your wife's knowledge or consent? Valerie asks, her voice sharp. Trent shifts in his seat, his eyes darting around the room. I was just trying to secure our financial future. Aaliyah doesn't understand the sacrifices I've made for this family. Valerie scoffs, holding up a stack of documents. Sacrifices? You mean the money you funneled into your secret business account? The investments you made without your wife's input? Trent's face reddens, his fists clenching. Those investments were sound. I was going to make us rich. Valerie shakes her head, her voice dripping with disdain. Rich, while putting your family's home and financial security at risk? No, Mr. Thompson. The only person you were looking out for was yourself. As Valerie continues her relentless questioning, Trent's composure crumbles. He lashes out, his voice rising to a shout. You have no idea what you're talking about. I'm the victim here, not her. The judge bangs his gavel, his voice booming through the courtroom. Order. Mr. Thompson, control yourself, or I will have you removed. In the end, the evidence is overwhelming. The judge rules in my favor, granting me the house and a significant portion of Trent's ill-gotten gains. Trent storms out of the courtroom, his face a mask of fury. As I stand on the courthouse steps, Valerie by my side, I feel a sense of relief wash over me. It's been a long, painful battle, but I've emerged victorious. Trent's lies and betrayal have been exposed, and I can finally start to rebuild my life on my own terms. I know there will be challenges ahead, but for the first time in a long time, I feel a sense of hope. I've reclaimed what's rightfully mine, and I won't let anyone take that away from me again. The future is bright, and I'm ready to face it head-on. The sun streams through the windows of my new home, casting a warm glow on the hardwood floors. It's been 6 months since the divorce was finalized, and I've finally finished unpacking the last of the boxes. The house feels like a sanctuary, a place where I can start fresh and build the life I've always wanted. I'm just putting the finishing touches on my new home office when the doorbell rings. I open the door to find Sarah, a wide grin on her face and a bottle of champagne in her hand. Congratulations, Aaliyah. I can't believe you did it. Your own business, your own home. You're an inspiration. Sarah pulls me into a tight hug, her eyes misty with emotion. I laugh, feeling a sense of pride swell in my chest. I couldn't have done it without you, Sarah. Your support means everything to me. We settle onto the couch, sipping champagne and chatting about my plans for the future. I tell her about the small business loan I secured, using my portion of the settlement to fund my dream of opening a community bookstore. I never thought I'd be able to do something like this, Sarah, to take control of my life and create something that's truly mine. I shake my head, still in disbelief. Sarah nods, her expression serious. You've come so far, Aaliyah. I'm so proud of you. As we talk, my phone buzzes with an incoming text. I glance down, my stomach dropping as I see Trent's name on the screen. Can we talk? I need to see you. The message reads, his tone pleading. I show the text to Sarah, my hands shaking slightly. What do I do? I thought I was done with him. Sarah takes my hand, her voice firm. You don't owe him anything, Aaliyah. He lost the right to be a part of your life the moment he betrayed you. I nod, taking a deep breath. You're right. I'm not going to let him ruin this moment. I delete the message, feeling a sense of liberation wash over me. Trent may have been a part of my past, but he has no place in my future. A few weeks later, I'm standing in front of my new bookstore, a sense of pride swelling in my chest as I cut the ribbon at the grand opening. The community has rallied around me, filling the store with well wishes and eager customers. As I mingle with the crowd, I catch a glimpse of a familiar face in the back of the store. Trent stands there, his expression a mix of anger and desperation. I excuse myself from the conversation and make my way over to him, my heart pounding in my chest. What are you doing here, Trent? I thought I made it clear that I don't want to see you. My voice is steady, but I can feel my hands trembling slightly. Trent steps forward, his eyes pleading. Aaliyah, please, I made a mistake. I never meant to hurt you. I scoff, shaking my head. A mistake? Is that what you call lying to me for years? Stealing from our family? No, Trent. That's not a mistake. That's a choice. He reaches for me, but I step back, my voice rising. I've built a new life for myself, Trent, a life that doesn't include you, and I won't let you ruin that. Trent's face twists with anger, his fists clenching at his sides. You think you're better than me now? You think you can just cut me out of your life? I meet his gaze, unflinching. I know I'm better than the lies and the betrayal, and I know that I deserve more than what you gave me. I turn to walk away, but Trent grabs my arm, his grip tight. You'll regret this, Aaliyah. You need me. I wrench my arm free, my voice cold. No, Trent, I don't need you. I never did. With that, I walk back into the bookstore, my head held high. I'm surrounded by the people who love and support me, the people who have been there for me through thick and thin. As I look around at the smiling faces and the shelves filled with books, I feel a sense of contentment wash over me. I've overcome so much to get to this point, and I know that no matter what challenges lie ahead, I have the strength to face them head on. I am Aaliyah Thompson, a survivor, a fighter, and a woman who has reclaimed her life. And nothing, not even the ghosts of my past, can take that away from me.